Behind me are local residents, people from all over the country. Shabana Mahmood has said that this is an effective way of getting rid of those expensive, flashy asylum hotels. But unfortunately, these people are still placed within the community.
The whole town is very afraid because these are unvetted men from countries that are, the government warn us not to go to. I've got an 18-year-old daughter and she gets the bus opposite camp.
Do you feel safe for her?
No, so that will have to stop. Right. We'll either have to wait with her or take her to wherever she needs to go.
The reason I'm here today is because I live in Crowborough and my family, I've got a wife and children, and just worried about, my wife walking to work and my sons, walking about. Anything can happen, can't it, that nowadays and age, what's going on, what's happening in this country. So I'm just concerned and frightened,
There was support from other towns, other communities, because of course Shabana Mahmood has threatened other communities, and she said they're going to open site after site after site. Well, I would hope that if she's going to try and do that, she learns some lessons about the way she's done it in Crowborough, because this is not finished. We are not finished objecting to this plan.
Crowborough says no! Crowborough says no! Crowborough says no!
We would urge her to reconsider, and whatever she does, she needs to talk to the people that she's imposing these things on.
If you had a direct line to Keir Starmer and Shabana Mahmood, what would you say to them?
Look after your most vulnerable first. It's your priority to look after your vulnerable.
If they're bringing illegal immigrants into a camp in
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
There you are. Good evening. You see, I've done it wrong already. Good morning and welcome to Sunday Breakfast right here on Talk. I am your genial rise and shine host, Kevin O'Sullivan, and I'll be with you for 4 fantastic hours of news, views and topical debate all the way to 10 o'clock. Get involved. Get it off your chest and call me on 0344 499 1000, or you can WhatsApp voice note me on the same number, and I promise to play your message out. It is Sunday, February the 15th. Here's what's coming up. The seismic fallout surrounding Rupert Lowe's new party, Restore Britain, continues apace amid fears that a fractured right will be beaten at the next election by a ragtag mosaic of left-wing lunatics led by Labour's resident madman, Crazy Ed Miliband, and encompassing the dangerously deranged worldview of gormless green goblin Zach Polanski. After Elon Musk backed Lowe in an incendiary Twitter post, a poll immediately put Restore Britain on 10% of the vote, instantly equaling the Lib Dems. Do you support Rupert Lowe's challenge to Nigel Farage and reform? 0344 499 1000. In other news, as the new shocking allegations emerge over Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, demands for a full police criminal investigation are reaching a crescendo. When will the police concede that they have no choice but to probe the growing number of disturbing accusations against the King's brother? And is the cops' strange lethargy here down to good old-fashioned cap-doffing royal deference? 0344 499 1000. Also today, the migrant who got NHS-funded sex change surgery. Fury erupts over the so-called RNLI water taxi service, the Royal Lifeboat Institute, ferrying in cross-channel migrants as if it's a taxi service. People have had enough of that. The soaring cost of government diversity spending and so much more. So don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk. the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Sunday morning together at this ungodly hour. I am joined by broadcaster and writer Claire Muldoon. Hi, Muldoon.
Morning, Kevin. How are you, Sullivan?
I'm all right, yeah. I don't know why I said Muldoon there. It's too early. Morning, Claire.
Thank you, Kevin. Good morning. How are you?
I was just looking at my copy here and I said...
4 hours. That's going to be a long time for you this morning.
It certainly is.
Yeah.
It will be about twice as much sleep as I've had, so there you go. Right, let's do the newspaper, shall we?
Yeah.
And I think before we get on to what's on the front pages, we need to talk about this development that happened on Friday when Rupert Lowe, former Reform UK, great Yarmouth MP, of course, who fell out with Farage and became an independent, he some time ago launched what he called the Restore Britain movement. He was at great pains to say it's not a party, it's a movement. On Friday, he changed the goalpost and says it is a party. This is seen as a direct challenge to Nigel Farage. And it will fracture the right, there's no doubt about that, because you've already got Ben Habib's Advance UK, now, of course, Reform UK, the Tories as well, and now Rupert Lowe's party. Now, Rupert Lowe, he carries the backing of Elon Musk. Elon Musk has already tweeted, effectively tweeted, vote Rupert, don't vote Nigel. He doesn't like Nigel Farage. Immediately, there was a poll yesterday, immediately Restore Britain, the party, has rocketed in. It's got the same amount of vote support as the Lib Dems. So a pretty phenomenal seismic political event. And a lot of people saying, thank God, you know, because we love Rupert, we always wanted to vote for Rupert. But this will fracture the right even more. And the danger here, or the fear, would be that a fractured right, you know, with Rupert Lowe taking a lot of votes from Reform UK, Advance UK taking votes from Reform UK as well, a fractured right would be beaten by a coalition of Labour, Greens, Lib Dems and the rest of them. So we can't forget as well Ruth Davison's new party for the politically homeless, which is Prosper UK. And if you note the nomenclature of these parties... but they're just left-wingers, aren't they?
Ruth Davison was the Conservative leader in Scotland.
They are so far out of touch. But look,
the nomenclature, a lot of them are out of touch. Nomenclature is Reform, Restore, Prosper, all with UK at the end of them. So these are messages, subliminal or whatever, that they know the electorate, us, that we need and we want, because we're not getting it at the moment. And as you said, I think the direct correlation between all of this might be a consolidation of Lib Dems, Greens and Labour. But we need to look above the border, actually, and I think what's happening in Scotland at the moment is very interesting. Anna Sarwar, don't forget, was the only one to call out Keir Starmer and start almost as if he was moving Helen of Troy and the Trojan horse to the gates of Parliament, and of course it backfired greatly. Do we think domestically, even though Keir Starmer is currently at the Munich Munich Security Conference,
how secure is he?
Well, no, exactly. And he actually said yesterday, I think it was, or the day before, that he finished this week stronger than last week. Well, Kevin, an aged oak whiskey would age better and age longer than he has this whole time. He can't keep using things, saying things like that, because it just doesn't rub. It just doesn't rub with the electorate at all, let alone his own party. Back to Rupert Lowe, I think he's had a great trajectory because of the grooming gang scandal that he wanted another inquiry into. So doff cap to him. I think we do need people to stand up against reform. I think we do need people to stand up against everybody, and I just wish that people would come together and say what they want all the time instead of sniping each other. Front page of the Sunday Times.
Why do you think we need somebody to stand up against reform?
Because they're getting too... I don't think they've got many policies. I don't think Nigel Farage actually wants to be PM.
You don't?
No,
Why
I don't.
do you think that?
I don't. I really don't.
Why do you think that?
I think he's a great communicator.
He
I
wants
think
to be Prime Minister with every fibre in his body.
Really?
Yes.
Gosh, that surprises me, actually.
You don't think he wants to be Prime Minister?
I don't think he can be...
Where did you get that from?
I don't think he can be bothered with everything that will come with it. I think it'll be too much.
So what do you think he's doing then? Just postulating?
Whatever. But I think reform is a much-needed political political voice for the unheard. They are the populist vote, and that is so necessary because none of the other parties are listening to the Red Wall, to the north of England, to Scotland, and all the Conservative votes that have left.
So why is it... in one breath you seem to be saying that reform are a good thing, and then you're saying
they're
that
a good thing
they're
only
a bad
because
thing.
No, I'm not saying they're... I'm saying they are a good thing because I can understand fully why people are voting for them. Because it's the unheard, it's the people who are completely stopped in their tracks with traditional conservatism and traditional Labour voters. That's who are That's who are going.
So they're
off
a
to
good
reform.
thing then, or not? I'm not. What is your view on?
My view on reform is that they are a necessary force of evil or for good, regardless of which
force of evil.
I've just told you, Kevin, because if you're voting for them, you're voting for them more or less as a leap into not voting for Labour or Conservative.
Okay. So what about Rupert Lowe's party then, Restore Britain?
Well, as you know, we've only heard
that?
about it on Friday because before that it wasn't a party. Before that it was a movement.
Right.
It's gaining traction faster than, well, it would seem if they're on 10%, the same as Lib Dems. But do you really believe all the polls that come out? I mean, who would be the sample? Where is the demographic? Geographical demographic and socio-economic demographic?
Well, do I believe the polls that indicate that there's that the direction of political travel is towards Reform UK at the moment?
No, towards Restore. Rupert Lowe's party.
Well, I believe that Rupert Lowe is very popular. He's a very popular guy. Many people think that Nigel Farage has gone too mainstream. That may be his problem. But I'm fascinated by your idea that Nigel Farage doesn't want to be Prime Minister.
I don't think he will be.
So what's he... No, but you said he doesn't want to be.
Yeah, I believe he doesn't want to be.
Well, what's he doing then? What's the idea of all this?
He's doing what he says he will do. He's reforming Britain. Britain needs reform, but I don't think it needs reform by reform.
OK. All right. I just don't understand what you think Nigel Farage is up to if he doesn't want to be Prime Minister or if he doesn't want Reform UK to succeed. He's just doing it for fun or what?
I don't know. You need to ask him that. It's
well,
just
no,
my
hang on.
view.
No, he would say, I want to be Prime Minister, wouldn't he?
Well, I've not heard him say that. I'm saying... I've heard him say,
you've never heard him say he wants to be Prime Minister?
No, I've heard him say when Reform have won the general election.
He's always saying he wants to be Prime Minister.
Okay.
He says it about 50 times a week. Anyway, folks, let me know what you think. Do you support Rupert Lowe? Would you vote for Restore Britain, the party? Maybe you might vote for Ben Habib's party, Advance UK, another right-wing party. Ben Habib will join us later. He's still closely affiliated with Rupert Lowe. He says he welcomes this new party, but you can't help feeling that all of it is fracturing the right, isn't it? So... let me know what you think. Will you vote for Rupert Lowe, or are you worried that his new party will only further fracture the right and allow a kind of mosaic, a coalition of left-wing lunatics, led probably by Labour Party leader Ed Miliband, encompassing the deranged nonsense of Zach Polanski, and every other lefty in the land? They could get together with the Lib Dems and form a coalition that will beat the right. So that is the question. Let me know where you stand on all of that. Let's move on, Claire. Let's talk about some other front pages. On the front page of The Telegraph, Starmer surrenders to Brussels over net zero rules. Keir Starmer has drawn up plans which will see Britain ramp up its net zero targets and cede control over its energy policy as part of closer alignments with Brussels. So here we go again. First of all, one of the reasons net zero, or rather Reform UK, is succeeding or is capturing the popular support is because they'll scrap the nut zero nonsense. This Labour Party draws us further and further into it. Tony Blair warned on Friday that we've got to stop this nut zero stuff because we are at risk of our energy bills getting even higher. It will ruin the economy, and yet Labour, as we see today from the Telegraph, gets more and more sucked into it. It's
well,
very
we'll be
worrying.
even more and more sucked into it if Ed Miliband does become leader, as his name and John Healey's name has been mooted to be the next leader, and that brings into the other question of how long Starmer will remain in president, as Prime Minister of the UK. It's just ridiculous that Starmer is inching its way forward towards the EU and what the EU wants. And I think he's putting a huge two fingers up to the electorate that voted for Brexit. And he's insulting every one of us that voted for Brexit by his inability to stay away and move himself away politically from the EU.
Yeah.
I mean, Angela van der Leyen yesterday said about Rudico's speech in Munich, it's much better having him speaking to us than J.D. Vance. Europe just seems to be, going away from what we should be doing, unifying ourselves with the alliance of the US and, the rest of the Europe geographically, but not necessarily politically or financially. I think it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I agree with you. Now, Starmer still desperately clinging on. He's given a big interview to The Sun on Sunday.
Oh, yes, he did, didn't he?
It's, what's he say? It's been tough, but I'll fight on.
Yeah.
But I'm coming out fighting. He spoke to the political editor of The Sun on Sunday, Kate Ferguson. And, he says he will still be at the helm of the Labour Party at the next election. I mean, he's in some sort of denial, isn't he? I mean, he's not going to be the Labour leader at the next election, is he?
Oh, it's very doubtful, very doubtful. We've already had, as I said, Anna Sarwar, Helen of Troy, using that analogy, but nothing happened with that. John Healey has now been mooted, the Defence Secretary, as potentially the next leader, i.e. then the next Prime Minister. Angela Rayner still wants to have her cap in. But she's very popular, of course, with the backbenchers and the trade unions. I think Ed Miliband has been mooted as well, as has Pat McFadden. The truth is, no one ever knows, because the truth is we don't know what goes on behind closed doors. But we could say, from outside looking in, the 14-15 U-turns that Starmer has already performed in less than 2 years in governance. Added to that, the sacking of Sue Gray, the sacking of Morgan McSweeney, the inability for him to, side over the two-tier policing that we have, the inability for him to actually draw conclusions and work through it. I mean, the virtues for leaders, for heaven's sake, are resilience, are judgment, are temperance, are to be genuine, are to be, take good risks. He's done nothing. Absolutely nothing. He employed Mandelson. He was told not to. He had the cashier in front of him. He still went ahead. That's really poor judgment. That and all of the other things that I've just mentioned would indicate to me he's not a leader, therefore should not be in the job, therefore should not be leading us in this, what's happening in Iran, what's happening with Greenland, the Chagos Islands, what's happening in Palestine, all over. Geopolitically, it's a mess, and I don't have confidence in Starmer to take us through that at all.
Well, absolutely. I mean, the picture, he doesn't make any decisions. He delegates everything. Nobody knows what's going on. Big, powerful piece in The Spectator and yesterday's Daily Mail by Tim Shipman, the Spectator's political chief, and saying exactly where Keir Starmer's gone wrong, constantly overruling advice on who to appoint. Yeah. So this guy, Sir Chris Sir Chris Wormold, the Cabinet Secretary, he appointed, Starmer appointed him against the advice of all his advisors about a year and 3 months ago. And now he's firing him because he's disappointed in him. Well, all his advisors said, don't appoint this guy. He's a journeyman. He's screwed up the health department. But Starmer appointed him. Same deal with Mandelson. Don't appoint this guy. Oh, I'm going to appoint them. He overrules everyone, all the advice that he ever gets. Don't allow...
And that's arrogance.
Don't allow the Chinese to build a mega embassy in the city. Overrules the advice of our intelligence services. So he overrules everyone, makes wrong decisions, and what's he doing now? He's firing everybody that he appointed when he first came in order to save his own backside, which is an extremely depressing and pathetic spectacle to witness. Let's go to break, and talking about extremely pathetic spectacles, we're going to be talking about Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. The net is closing on this guy. The only mystery is why have the police not yet launched an official criminal investigation? The number of allegations against Andrew are ridiculous now, stacking up to an extraordinary extent, and the only explanation you can think of to explain why the police are dragging their heels on doing what they did to Peter Mandelson. They opened a criminal investigation on Mandelson like a flash, you know, really quickly. So why haven't they opened one for exactly the same allegations against Prince Andrew? The only explanation you can think of is it's good old-fashioned, be me ever so humble, it's the King's brother, we can't investigate him, can we? Well, yes, you can, and you better get going, and you better get going quickly. We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
We genuinely are on resignation watch. There is absolutely no doubt about it. Labour MP, they say, listen, Keir, your position is untenable. This is all about appointing that rat, Peter Mandelson, who faces a criminal investigation.
Can Keir Starmer survive the Mandelson scandal? We have breaking news for you. We've just been talking about, of course, Morgan McSweeney, the Chief of Staff. We've now had another resignation from number 10. Keir Starmer's Director of Communications, Tim Allen, has now also resigned. The plot is thickening. The noose is tightening.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with writer and broadcaster Claire Muldoon. I very rudely called Muldoon earlier because it's too early. Good morning, Claire. Good to have you in the studio. Now, Claire just said that she doesn't believe that Nigel Farage wants to be Prime Minister. So my question would be, well, what do you think he's doing then? Do you believe Nigel Farage wants to be Prime Minister, or do you believe what Claire says, that he doesn't really want to? And if he doesn't want to, what do you think he's up to? Lots of reaction already to that. 0344 499 1000. Other big question is, will you vote for Rupert Lowe's new party, Restore Britain, which is already soaring up the polls, and will, of course, fracture the right. So the Reform vote, which would have been just split, I guess, by the Tories, now will be split by, obviously, the Tories, but also Rupert Lowe's party and Ben Habib's party, Advance UK. So do you worry about the fracturing of the right? 0344 499 1000, because if they go into the next election as a divided entity, the chances are that the lefties will all get together, Labour, Greens, Lib Dems and the rest of them, and form a coalition that will beat the forces. So let me know what you think about that. 0344 499 1000. Claire, let's talk about Andrew now, shall we? On the front page of the Sunday Times, this country's top prosecutor, he's Stephen Parkinson, the Director of Public Prosecutions, a job that Keir Starmer used to have. He says that nobody is above the law as pressure grows for a full police investigation into Andrew Mountbatten Windsor over his links to Jeffrey Epstein. Well, it's more than Jeffrey Epstein now. Now, the mystery is that the Epstein files evidence against Mandelson alleged, you have to say, these files have to be verified, but the criminal investigation against Mandelson was launched on the fact that in these Epstein files are apparent copies of emails that he forwarded to Epstein that were confidential British government information. There is exactly the same kind of evidence in the Epstein files against Andrew, exactly the same. Furthermore, Gordon Brown, no less, is leading the calls for a full criminal investigation, not only into Andrew's alleged nefarious financial activities when he was a trade envoy back in the noughties, but also into his involvement in Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking operation. Gordon Brown wrote a piece in The Spectator and has been giving interviews for the past week or so, saying, look, 90 flights of the Lolita Express, Epstein's private jets, came into Britain full of these women, many of whom, or some of whom, it seems, were transported almost immediately to Buckingham Palace to see Prince Andrew. He gave instructions to the staff at the palace to say a woman calling herself Mrs. Windsor will be arriving soon, please let her in. So Gordon Brown is saying that not only does Prince Andrew, or the former Prince Andrew, stand accused of nefarious financial activities, selling Britain down the river to line his own pockets, but also that he's up to his neck, according to Gordon Brown, in Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking operation. So the allegations against Prince Andrew are far more serious than the allegations against Peter Mandelson, even though those allegations are extremely serious. So why did the police instantly launch an investigation against Peter Mandelson, but they have not yet launched an investigation against Prince Andrew?
Because
it's cap doffing, isn't it?
Well, it might very well be, but I think the bare bones of the facts are that Mandelson admitted that there might be something there. He's not come out and said that he disagrees with it, or he's not... Well,
what did he admit? He hasn't admitted.
Has he not? I thought the evidence was there.
He says
the cards and everything have been...
Mandelson says his contention is he's done nothing criminal.
Right. But that's part of the reason it has to be investigated. What is Andrew Mountbatten? Well, I would say he has as well. But I think Thames Valley Police were taking their time to make sure the case was built before they started anything.
But why were they so fast to launch the... I'll tell you why. Because it's good old-fashioned royal deference. It's cap doffing to the King's brother, trust me.
Well, they won't have a leg to stand on.
They're terrified to launch an investigation.
Well, they won't have a leg to stand on when the head of the DPP comes and tells them you have to do it, because, as he said, no one is above the law. And I think that's a very strong statement. And I hope I really hope that Andrew Mountbatten Windsor is hauled over the coals and every part of his seedy life with Epstein is, shown to the world what that man did and what Sarah Ferguson did as well.
Yeah.
Because she's not without blood in her hands either.
Sure, yeah. I mean, but I mean, as I say, it's still inexplicable why the police were so fast to launch a criminal investigation against Peter Mandelson for exactly the same alleged evidence in the Epstein files that was there against Prince Andrew. Why were they so fast against Mandelson, but why have they been so slow with Prince Andrew? You can only imagine it's because he's a member of the royal family. I can't think of another explanation.
Well, I think they were trying to, as I said, I think they were trying to get the evidence and move in and open it.
Yeah, but why didn't they do the same with
because I think
Mandelson?
the evidence was already there. I think there was less of it.
No, it's the same.
I think there was less of it, Kevin. It's not the same evidence.
It is the same evidence.
It's not the same evidence because the email trails are different.
Are they? Okay, all right. It's the same. It's the same. It's
Principle,
the same.
perhaps, but the evidence is not the same.
All right, if you say so. It is the same. The redacted emails. Redacted emails forwarded.
So you've said as well.
Forwarded by Mandelson. Redacted emails forwarded by Prince Andrew.
The volume of the ones that have been found in the Epstein files mentioning the Duke.
There were more about Andrew.
There are more, yes.
About Andrew.
Yes.
So again, why are they being so slow then?
Because I think they're collating them all and getting everything together.
Why are they being so fast with
Kevin, don't ask me. I don't get all shirty with me. I don't obviously have all the answers, nor do you.
Well, yeah, but I can see what's in the files. There's actually more emails allegedly sent by Prince Andrew than Mandy.
I know.
So why are the police being so slow?
Well, you can ask the question a million times, Kevin.
Well, I've given you my reason. I've given you why I think it is. It's royal deference.
So you've said a million times.
And this is exactly what we've got to break ourselves out of as a country, as a nation. No more of this nonsense. No more establishment claptrap. Let's, Prince Andrew, or the former Prince Andrew, deserves to be investigated just as Peter Mandelson does. It could be, let's face it could be both men are innocent, but Mandelson is quite rightly being criminally investigated. The question is, why isn't Prince Andrew? I suspect the police won't have any choice fairly soon, but it is a bit strange that they've taken so long to do this. Shall we go to break? When we come back, we'll talk about a couple of migrant stories, Claire, shall we? Let's go to break. See you in a second.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. We've been discussing the former Prince Andrew. Do you think it's time that the police launch an official criminal investigation into him? The papers today full of more lurid allegations about his alleged association with Jeffrey Epstein's women, particularly on an official British trip to when he was trade envoy to China. Also his financial links to the Rowland family, the bankers, and of course his financial links to Jeffrey Epstein, allegedly. Do you think it's time that the police stopped beating about the bush and did or do what they have already done to Peter Mandelson and launch a full criminal investigation. Surely it's time. 03 44499 1000. Claire, let's talk about this. This has got people riled up, and I'm not surprised. It's in The Sun. A migrant received tens of thousands of pounds for sex treatment at the NHS before she was given the right to stay in the UK.
Yeah,
that's not
the key. It's just not on.
I think you're right.
Myriad of people like queuing up, waiting for.
We'll agree on this one.
Hip. Look, no, Kevin, don't get. I think there should be an investigation.
No, it's all right.
No, it's not okay because you kept asking that question. The question that you should have asked is the one that you've just opened your segment with. Should there be an investigation? Of course there should. Never mind about the timing, why it didn't happen at the same time as Mandelson. But with this migrant...
Well, that is an important question.
Yeah, but not as important... Well, anyway. Migrant given £10,000 worth of sex change treatments on the NHS at Chelsea Westminster Hospital, a hospital that don't even reach its own targets for standard operations that would help people get back to work and help people get money back into the Treasury. This is a migrant who came from the Philippines, I believe, who wasn't even granted leave to remain. So one can only assume that he was, at the time, not even registered with the state to be a UK citizen. Yeah. So why on earth then could he have access to this type of treatment on the NHS? And this type of treatment is not life-saving.
No, this is extraordinary. I mean, this guy comes to Britain as a man. We don't know whether he came... It doesn't specify whether he came in legally or legally, but the point is he came and he wanted to stay.
Yeah.
So he came as a migrant, and during his application to stay, his pronouns on that application, the Home Office on his immigration page... Fashion, isn't it? M-I-S-S. The patient boasted of getting the op in a celebratory online message with a picture using a new name, a feminine version of his old one. So, essentially, in comes this guy, and we pay through the NHS for his sex change surgery before he's been approved to stay, and they just changed his gender on his application, his immigration application. René Hundekamp, formerly of this parish, Dr. GP, said this should not be happening in the NHS. I have patients waiting for hip replacements, knee surgery, procedures they need to work and get on with their lives. So that is an outrageous use of British taxpayers' money, isn't it, Claire?
And yeah, exactly. And the time, the doctor's time, the hospital's time, the nursing staff time, the admin time, everything.
It's just, yeah, it's unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable.
The clock is ticking, but unfortunately not down to waiting lists to get everybody off them and get treated.
And exactly right. Now, this is interesting. There's anti-migrant protesters have been demonstrating outside the Royal, the RNLI, the Lifeboat Institute, outside their HQ, saying that the lifeboat charity should stop acting as a taxi service for asylum seekers. I think this is a difficult issue, it's a delicate issue, but the fact is the RNLI often does go out to meet the small boats that are coming across from France and collect the migrants and ferry them into Dover or Folkestone or wherever. And a lot of people are pretty fed up about this. They say, why is the RNLI acting as a taxi service?
Because that's their responsibility.
The RNLI say
to save people in the waters that people might perish in. That is what they are supposed to do.
Yeah.
So they've come out and said that it's not their fault that they are saving the lives of possible potential people that will perish in the Channel. It's not their fault. They are seeking to get past the borders here and into Britain.
I suppose they
are a charity.
But the question would be, why is it that sometimes the migrants are picked up by the border force, but other times the RNLI? So why isn't it always the Border Force? I mean, whose job is it? Do you see what I mean?
I do, completely.
It's just that these protesters feel that this is a misuse of charity money, if you like, that this is not the function of the RNLI. I'm not taking a position on it. I'm just saying it's interesting that they're protesting outside, of all people, the RNLI's headquarters.
And I think it's worth mentioning as well that the RNLI do amazing work, especially along the Thames. They're often called out to horrible situations, even if it's someone who's trying to end their life or someone who's just got into grave danger through running after their dog or something, or capsizing in a canoe. We've got lots of rowers on the Thames. So to protest outside the RNLI, what this cohort have done is got the red flags up and got people talking about it again, altruistically, going to the heart of what the RNLI are for. As I've said, they are there to patrol the waters as a charity, just not unlike mountain rescuers.
Okay. So what do you think, folks? The RNLI, should they be picking up migrants in the middle of the channel? Is that their job? Do you think that is effectively a water taxi service for people trying to break into this country illegally? Should they be doing this? Do you agree with the protesters or do you disagree? So that's 0344 499 1000. Let's go to break, Claire, and then when we come back we'll talk about some more pointless spending on diversity by the Labour government, which is shelling out millions and millions of pounds for DEI in government departments. Isn't that special? 0344 499 1000. That next, stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, still with writer and broadcaster Claire Muldoon. Claire, story in the Sunday Express, page 5, outrage over £2.6 million spent on diversity roles. This, of course, is the tip of the iceberg, but this specifically refers to 5 departments that have spent £2.6 million on equality, diversity and inclusion staff, and calls are rising, saying that this must stop. You know, that we just don't have the money for these kind of luxuries.
We don't have the headspace either, because I'll tell you, any form of diversity, equality or inclusion actually excludes, is so undiverse and is not equitable at all. It does the exact opposite. And also, not only does it do the exact opposite from what it says in the tin, it actually costs us so much more money. That money, that 2.6 million, could easily be absorbed into other budgets that would go to everybody that needs it. I think economic disparity in this country actually supersedes DEI because it affects everyone of different races, different creeds, different colours, different religions, different sexes. And that's the way we should be tackling this, economically, not through pigeonholing people factually by where they come from, what their position is, what their pronouns are, etc., etc.
Totally. I mean, it's just this syndrome generally all across the public sector. You know, all departments, including the NHS in the public, always say we've got enough money. You know, well, we need more money.
Kevin, I got a letter.
All this
I got
diversity.
a letter through from Guys in St Thomas's Trust asking me to do some feedback for them. Within that letter, that was in a large envelope, because as you know, it costs more to post a large envelope than it does a normal envelope. It was 2 pieces of paper. One piece of paper was, please do this, here's your code, we'd love to hear from you. The second piece of paper, you won't believe this, it was double-sided.
Go on.
It was in 12 different languages. A separate piece of paper. Well, it was double, it might have been more, actually. But that was obviously sending information through for the people who don't speak English from the front page of the paper, and how on earth they were going to do the feedback form, who knows?
It's just unbelievable, isn't it?
But then they've doubled the postage, got people to translate, and then it's all of this money. Scrap it, stop it, hold it.
Yeah, I mean, the NHS spends...
an inordinate amount of money.
It's got 800 diversity officers and they cost £40 million a year. This is an organisation that constantly says we are going broke, we need more money. Well, don't spend £40 million a year on diversity. Spend it on doctors and nurses.
There is a local authority near the West Country that took their DEI cohort to Vegas. on taxpayers' money.
It's obscene.
And they don't seem to be held accountable either. Because if you say anything against it, then you are either transphobic, you're racist, you're Islamophobic, you're whatever, instead of looking at the facts and looking at the parity across the board and dealing with people that need it on an economic scale. Because that, as I said, cuts through everything.
Yeah, and just the amount of money just wasted on DEI, I suppose you need to spend some money on it, I guess, but I don't see why, for example, the Ministry of Defence, has got more than 60 diversity officers. They call themselves protecting the protectors. Now...
The world's just gone mad. And
it's crazy,
the statistics today as well that teachers now are losing, a day a week through sickness.
Are they? God.
And the amount of holiday, it's just, honest to goodness me, I really don't understand what's happening.
No, exactly.
It's horrible.
By the way, while I've got you on, what do you make of, to go back to Keir Starmer, his speech at the Munich Security Conference, saying that if you vote for Reform and or Green, you'll be putting the nation in danger, that these people are too friendly to Russia, therefore vote Labour, otherwise we'll lose the war.
He cannot stand up and say anything about anyone's links to Russia, given the front page of the Sunday Times. And what, I don't have a copy here actually in front of me.
I've got one, I think.
Right, the top bit.
Yeah, there you go, you take it.
So Morgan McSweeney was head of...
The Labour Together.
The Labour Together. They spent £36,000 to a US company, ApeCap, to get some... dirty information on two British reporters. They lied in the reports, and they have put these two, what are their names?
Gabrielle something.
Yeah.
You mean the Sunday Times?
Yeah, the Sunday Times thingies. And this was all under Labour Together. And McSweeney was commissioned APCO to look into it. And they were linking them to Russia and all sorts. And it's a load of lies. A load of lies.
Yeah, I don't... I mean, he's sort of saying you need to vote Labour in order to keep the nation safe. Well, look at the level of defence spending that this government is doing.
Well,
not
there should
very
be
much.
5% GDP, but they're not. They're nowhere near it.
Well, they're aiming to do 3.5 in about 20 years.
But look at what he's also said. He said he was going to send, was it war drones or something, into Ukraine or over that or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's what weak leaders do. They call war and they try to, say how strong they are in defence in order to bolster them. He also said be bold. I'd say he's being bold in the first instance for telling us that he's fine now and he's stronger now than he was a week ago. His position is not stronger.
Well, his days are still numbered. I mean, whether or not he managed to stagger through to the local elections is a moot point.
Of which 30 have been cancelled in local
But there'll still be
elections.
enough to humiliate him. There'll be enough for Labour to be annihilated. So it's going to be a very, very bad look for the government come the local
It's going to be a
election.
bad look for the country.
The point is, though, the word seems to be that whoever takes over from Starmer doesn't want to do it until after the shellacking of the local elections. So they'll make Starmer their sacrificial lamb for a terrible result in
Well,
May.
he's still there, as you said. And we thought it was Teflon Tony, but here we are.
Yeah, so yes, at the Security Conference, vote Reform or Green or risk war, says Starmer. PM claims rival parties are soft on Russia and weak on NATO. Zach Polanski, the leader of the Green Party, he says he wants to pull out of NATO because the age of NATO, the era of NATO is over. Now, normally we could just ignore what that lunatic's saying.
Yeah.
But
I think he might have a point, because I don't think NATO's fit for purpose. I really don't. And I'll add to that the UN as well. They've done nothing.
Oh, the UN's hopeless.
They're
yeah.
absolutely hopeless. And Trump called out NATO when he came in for his second term, saying, all you countries that aren't paying your bit, you better pay up or you're out.
But if we don't have NATO, I mean, NATO is basically America with a few countries attached.
32.
But if we don't have NATO, might it not weaken the West against Russia, etc.?
Well, has it weakened it? Are we stronger with it than without it? Look what's happened. Because Ukraine weren't members of NATO, and don't forget that was Biden that was pushing that they do become members of NATO, and that just got Putin, going.
Yeah, but you can't. I mean, that was never going to be allowed because Putin would have gone absolutely
exactly. But even just the talk of that.
I mean, Polanski, as I say, normally you would just dismiss that guy's deranged rantings as irrelevant. However, here's the danger. We know he's in talks with Ed Miliband, and that this guy Polanski, I'm not kidding. If the right are not careful, this mosaic of left-wing lunatics will form the next coalition government, and this madman, Zach Polanski, will be a cabinet secretary. That's terrifying, isn't it?
Absolutely.
He wants to legalise drugs.
Yep.
He wants to leave NATO. He wants to nuclear disarm. The guy is, he's an absolute security.
He's a free radical.
But he will be, if as the left want, Ed Miliband is our next Prime Minister, head of this left-wing Labour or left-wing coalition, Polanski will be a cabinet secretary. That's terrifying.
Absolutely terrifying. Terrifying. And it's terrifying the number of votes the Green Party are actually getting, especially from Gen Z girls.
He's good. I mean, what I'll say about Zach Polanski is he's a good performer. He's a good media performer, and he is, he's very skillfully sort of garnering all those lunatic people who don't.
Oat milk. We can't say oat milk anymore. It's oaties.
Oh yeah, it's not like
that was a good.
That
That was a good win.
Is it?
That was a good win.
And apparently, it's very, very fattening and very bad for you.
It's very
right
bad
now.
for you.
Yeah, but no, seriously. So that is the danger, folks. Particularly or especially because Rupert Lowe. I'm not criticising Rupert, but there's no doubt with his. It's not my position to do that. You might want to, but there's no doubt that with the formation of his party, Restore Britain, he has further fragmented the right. Ben Habib, who will join us a little later, leader of Advance UK, has also fractured the right. The Tories, of course, fracture it, as do Reform UK. So you've got 4 major factions there. And if they don't somehow or other get together the chances are they'll be beaten by sort of Zach Polanski, Ed Miliband, you know, you name the loony, Angela Rayner, you name the loony, they'll be in charge. So let me know what you think about that. 03444 991,000. In other words, Claire, if Reform UK, if you look at the polls, they've won sort of 20 polls in a row, but they even on their current encouraging projections, they're not going to have enough votes on their own to beat Zach, Ed and the gang.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
All to play for. I wonder if Ben Habib's party, Advance, will actually merge perhaps with the movement stroke party of Rupert Lowe.
Well, Ben has already said it's kind of an ambivalent. It's very interesting because they are, I guess they're sort of rivals, but Ben said he very much welcomes it. He still works closely with Rupert. So what you're talking about there is two disaffected former reformers. You know, who are working against Nigel Farage. And, you know, I'm sure Reform UK will just sort of shrug their shoulders, oh, you know, we're not bothered about this. But they must be. They must be bothered about this. This is bad news for them. Don't you think?
Well, look at where Reform grew from. It grew from the Brexit Party, etc., etc. So they might, you know, say, gosh, you know, these new factions are coming in. They might take some of our votes, but ultimately they are on the same hymn sheet. They're singing from the same hymn sheet.
Yeah, politically, but personally,
well,
the idea that Rupert Lowe, Ben Habib and Nigel Farage would ever work together again, I'm afraid is for the birds. I mean,
well,
there's a lot of personal animosity
exactly,
going on there.
But if they truly believed what was best for Britain, then they would come together, and indeed they would form another alliance or another coalition and do the best for Britain.
And do you think, I mean, probably the most important question is, do you think that going forward as we get closer to the next election, which will probably be 29, I suppose.
Yeah, it will be.
Do you think the Tories and Reform might mend the bridges?
They might mend the bridges, but I think the troll under the bridge will still be there.
But do you think that they might unite?
No.
So you don't think the right will ever unite?
I don't. I
mean, I've got a lot of sympathy for that viewpoint. I mean, I hope they do. Do you think, folks, do you think the right will unite? Do you think maybe the Tories and Reform should get together, or do you think they shouldn't? Or do you think they will, is the point? Do you think they'll get together? Do you think there's any chance of all of these parties of the right getting together in a concerted bid to beat the forces of the right? We're going into a sort of European phase, I think, of British politics, where it's all about coalitions. Maybe we live in interesting times. It is going to be interesting, isn't it?
Very interesting. Get that popcorn out.
Get the popcorn out.
And get your defibrillator close by.
Yeah, I'm going to need mine, I'll tell you.
You are.
I'll tell you what, well, let me know what you think about all that. Now, when we come back, we're going to be talking to Simon Danczuk, former Labour MP, and we've got lots to speak about. He's got very forthright views about Peter Mandelson. Peter Mandelson is at the centre of a criminal investigation by the police. We've seen his boxes being taken out from his home, and the police have made no bones about the fact they're after Mandelson. Mandelson may end up in Wormwood Scrubs, the way things are going. But no movement yet on Prince Andrew. So we'll get the thoughts of Simon Danczuk on that. Mandelson has broken cover for the first time. We saw him yesterday coming out of his extremely expensive house in Regent's Park. How did he afford that? With his dog, carrying his dog. Jock, I think his dog's name is, because he's got another house in Wiltshire. So he maintains, by the way, we should stress that both the former Prince Andrew and Mandelson claim they've done nothing wrong. Mandelson's contention is that he has done nothing criminal. So while the police are investigating him, it's important to stress that he fully denies committing any criminal offences, and as things stand, I do believe that Prince Andrew, or the former Prince Andrew, maintains the same position. So let me know what you think about that. Is it about time that Prince Andrew Had his collar felt, basically. He's got to be interviewed by the police. There's so many allegations against him, don't you think? Let me know. 03444 99 1000. Will you vote Rupert Lowe? 03444 99 1000. Will the right ever unite? 03444 99 1000. Does Nigel Farage want to be Prime Minister? All of that when we come back. So stay tuned, folks.
Hello from Crowborough, where the local residents are enraged with what has happened to their community merely overnight, when just 27 single male asylum seeker illegal migrants were bussed into their military training camp. Behind me are local residents, people from all over the country. Shabana Mahmood has said that this is an effective way of getting rid of those expensive, flashy asylum hotels. But unfortunately, these people are still placed within the community.
The whole town is very afraid because these are unvetted men from countries that are, the government warn us not to go to.
I've got an 18-year-old daughter and she gets the bus opposite the camp.
Do you feel safe for her?
No, so that will have to stop. Right. We'll either have to wait with her or take her to wherever she needs to go.
The reason I'm here today is because I live in Crowborough and my family, I've got a wife and children, and just worried about, my wife walking to work and my sons, walking about. Anything can happen. Funny that nowadays, Nigel, what's going on, what's happening in this country. So I'm just concerned and frightened,
There was support from other towns, other communities, because of course Shabana Mahmood has threatened other communities, and she said they're going to open site after site after site. Well, I would hope that if she's going to try and do that, she learns some lessons about the way she's done it in Crowborough, because this is not finished. We are not finished objecting to this plan.
Crowborough says no! Crowborough says no! Crowborough says no!
We would urge her to reconsider, and whatever she does, she needs to talk to the people that she's imposing these things on.
If you had a direct line to Keir Starmer and Shabana Mahmood, what would you say to them?
Look after your most vulnerable first. It's your priority to look after your vulnerable.
If they're bringing illegal immigrants into a camp in the dead of night, why are they doing that? They're doing that because it's disingenuous, it's dishonest, it's covert, and they're trying to keep the reality away from the local community of what they're actually doing to us. We've now got to the end of the entrance to the camp, we've got cameras, we've got police drones. It's like a cloud that's come over this community.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. In a little while, I'll be talking to the Research Director at the Centre for Migration Control, Robert Bates. We will be focusing on the migrant who got a sex change courtesy of the NHS before he'd been approved to stay here under his asylum seeker application. That's nice, isn't it? So they changed his gender on his application from Mr. to Miss. And along the way, we funded his sex change operation. He's a Filipino. Also, we'll talk about the Albanian criminal who cannot be deported. He has now been here for a decade. And we'll get the latest from Crowborough. There's going to be another big protest by the local residents down in that Sussex town, that pretty Sussex town. They're protesting about the new migrant centre, the military camp there, the army training camp that has been converted into a asylum seeker accommodation centre for 540 young foreign men. The local population not very happy about that. They feel it's a threat to the safety, particularly of women and children in that area. We'll talk to Kim Bailey. She is the leader of Crowborough Shield. She'll be at the head of that protest today, and we'll find out what's been going on there, especially the local Green councillor who got together with her grandchildren. Her name is Anne Cross. She proudly told the local council, stood up and said, I sat down with my grandchildren and we painted and made Valentine's cards for the migrants in the new camp. So she got her little grandchildren to paint and send Valentine's cards to foreign men who broke into this country illegally that they've never met. I mean, that is wrong on so many levels. It's disturbing, actually, isn't it? 03444991000. When asked, why did you do that? She said, well, you know, these men are so interesting and you've got to learn their stories. And then she said, and feel the love. The view from Planet Green Party, folks. She's a local councillor down there in Crowborough. I think you'll find that Anne Cross's worldview on migrants is not shared by the fear-struck, worried people of Crowborough. So we'll be talking about that to Kim Bailey later in the hour. But for the meantime, let's spend the next half an hour or so in the excellent company of former Labour MP and defector now, I think, to the Reform UK Party, Simon Danczuk. Hi, Simon.
Good morning. Good to be with you, Kevin.
Good to have you on board. Well, I'm glad I've got you because, you know, Rupert Lowe, for about, I think it's best, ever since he left Reform UK, has been making a big play of the fact I've started this movement, Restore Britain. And I've interviewed him many times. Great play. He went to great lengths. It's not a party, it's a movement. Suddenly on Friday, he changed the goalpost and says it is a party. And he said, I am today, this is what he posted on Twitter, I am today launching Restore Britain as a national political party. This was followed swiftly by Elon Musk posting, join Rupert Lowe in Restore Britain because he is the only one who will actually do it. Now, there's been a poll today, and already Rupert Lowe's party is garnering 10% of the vote, right up there on the same level as the Lib Dems immediately. I would have thought that anybody who supports Nigel Farage or potentially the Tories, who does not want these left-wing lunatics, as in the current government, to carry on mismanaging, wrecking this country, you know, we want a right-wing government next time, or right-of-centre government, administering sensible policies as opposed to the identity politics lunacy that this lot are imposing on us. So we definitely want that, or most of us do want that. But the right is getting ever more fractured, and Rupert Lowe's party makes it even more fractured, and the more fractured it gets, the less likely it is that Reform UK will gather enough votes to be able to beat a kind of crazy mosaic of the lunatic left, run probably by Ed Miliband and Zach Polanski. Now, the idea of them winning doesn't bear thinking about, but if we're not careful, or the right are not careful, they are going to get beaten by this lefty coalition.
I think what you say is exactly right. I think British politics is splintering more broadly anyway. If you look at the left, you've got the Labour Party, you've got the Liberal Democrats, you've got the Green Party really pushing forward now, and then you've got the nationalist parties in Wales and Scotland who are very much on the left as well. So they've splintered to a great extent, but you're exactly right, the same is happening on the centre-right. And it's interesting. I hold Rupert in high regard. I've met him on a number of occasions, Rupert Lowe. I think he's a smart politician. And I think he has a lot to say. I don't agree with everything he says. I don't support everything he says, but he does make a difference in British politics, and I think that is to be welcomed. It is unfortunate that he's splitting the centre-right vote. I was surprised to see him polling at 10% so soon. I think that's really interesting. But the problem he's going to have in this new political party is organisation. And you've seen that with reform. I stood for reform I was an early adopter to reform before many of the other people came over to the party. I joined in January 2024 and fought the Rochdale by-election. Now, that's before Nigel Farage became leader of the party again. And the point I'm making there is that the organisation of the party in terms of on-the-ground campaigning was very limited back then in early 2024. Now they've come on leaps and bounds by this stage. So how they're fighting the Gorton and Denton by-election, for example, is in a much more sophisticated way than it was just a couple of years ago. And so the point there is that Rupert has a long way to go with this party, Restore Britain. You know, he needs a lot of money. It needs a lot of time, a lot of volunteers to get it anywhere near being able to win votes and win elections. That's the reality of it.
Yeah, I agree with that. But here's the problem. There seem to be so many personality clashes on the right. Now, I don't know whether getting towards the next election, 29, 28, whenever it happens, I don't know whether or not Nigel Farage and Kemi Badenoch or whoever's leading the Tory party then will be able to forge some kind of pact. Personally, I think it's possible. But there's a real problem with Rupert Lowe and Restore Britain, and of course Ben Habib with his Advance UK party, because there's a lot of personal animosity between Nigel and those two men. Actually, Lowe and Habib get on quite well. So they've got a kind of loose affiliation, although they're not together. But they will not forge a pact with Nigel Farage or the other way around. So the danger here is, Simon, that the right still, even if there's a pact between the Tories and Reform, the right still might be too fragmented to beat the left.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And I've met Ben Habib. I think he's a very articulate guy. I think he has a great contribution to make to British politics. But because of the system we have in Britain, and we'll see this play out in the Gorton and Denton by-election. So Ben Habib's party, Advance UK, has stood a candidate, Nick Buckley. Now, this is a three-way marginal. And so it's either going to be the Greens, Labour or Reform that win that by-election. And this illustrates the problem that the centre-right have got. You know, Runcorn was won by Reform, Sarah Puchin, by I think, less than a dozen votes, by I think 6 votes. That was the majority that she won by. And so if Advance UK take 100, 200, 300 or even 1,000 votes in the Gorton and Denton by-election, they could stop Reform from winning that seat in the by-election, which would be a real bloody nose for Starmer. So you're exactly right. There is a real issue about splitting the vote in individual constituencies before we even get to whether a coalition should be formed in government. It is a concern, there's no doubt about that, but I don't know how it's going to be reconciled, because you're right, that these personalities, Ben Habib, Rupert Lowe, Nigel Farage, Zahir Yousaf, they don't rub along together well.
They don't, they exactly don't. And I think what we're entering now, people always said, oh, we can't, if we have proportional representation, the PR form of voting that so many European countries use, we, like them, will be doomed to eternal coalitions. I mean, that's what PR does. It means the only government you ever get is coalitions, hence France, Germany, all these countries, coalition governments. So they say, oh, PR in Britain will doom us to the same fate. Well, the thing is, even without PR, we are getting a picture emerging here that we are entering a European-style era of coalition government, that the next government will be formed either by a mosaic of the right or a mosaic of the left. So we're getting a kind of coalition system even without PR.
That's my prediction, that we will, at the next general election, end up with a coalition government, and it will either be Labour and the Liberal Democrats, or it will be the Conservatives and Reform. You made the point that the general election won't be until 2028, 2029 at the latest. That's as long as they can go. I would guess that Labour will change their leader after the May elections.
Yeah, I agree.
And then there will be immense pressure on whoever takes over to have a general election much sooner. Now, that's a problem for Rupert Law and Ben Habib, because they just don't have the time and opportunity to get established as political parties. They might be on the ballot paper in a good number of constituencies and take a few votes, but the momentum at this moment is really behind Reform. I mean, they've made incredible gains electorally and in the opinion polls, haven't they? They're regularly on 30%, well leading any other political party. So if the general election is sooner, then I would predict that they'll do very well in that. And I think it will be sooner rather than later. So all the momentums with Reform, irrespective of these new parties coming along. But I agree with you, we could end up with a coalition of Kemi Badenoch and Nigel Farage. God forbid if we end up with a coalition on the left of Ed Davey and Keir Starmer, whoever the new leader is.
I think it'd be Ed Miliband, Zach Polanski, Ed Davey. I mean, that prospect is absolutely terrifying. Let me just ask you about a couple of specific stories that have emerged in the papers today, Simon. I want to get your take on this. Is the migrant, the Filipino migrant who arrived here. We're not sure whether he arrived here either legally or illegally, but he was waiting for a decision on whether or not he could stay here forever. So he had an application for asylum in. While he was waiting for that decision, we paid, it seems, for 10,000 or tens of thousands of pounds worth of surgery to change his sex. He had a sex change surgery on the NHS, hence on the British taxpayer. He hadn't even been given the right to stay in the UK. The Home Office made the handy adjustment on his application form after his surgery to change it from Mr. to the rather old-fashioned Miss, M-I-S-S. That's just outrageous, isn't it?
It really is. I examined this issue some years ago when I was a Member of Parliament, the whole issue of health tourism that comes into Britain. And I think we would be shocked how much money is spent like this. £10,000 in this example. It was probably more in terms of all the consultations, etc. We spend millions upon millions through the NHS on health tourism. People come in here deliberately just to get free health treatment, because as an NHS we don't check on it. We don't decide or determine whether they're entitled to treatment. My wife is from Rwanda, and she came over a couple of years ago after we'd got married, and we paid a stack of money. That's the law, a stack of money into the NHS for her to be able to come to Britain. Quite rightly so, and happy to pay it. But this guy hasn't paid anything, has he? He's come here, we don't know, as you say, legally or illegally, and just gets free treatment. And I would add, he gets it via Chelsea and Westminster Hospital. That's my local hospital. And they're missing their treatment window, 18-week treatment window, for 40% of patients. So whilst others are being pushed to the back of the queue, British people, this guy is going and he's put through private healthcare, and Nuffield Health treat him. That's who we're paying him to treat him. And he goes to the front of the queue. I mean, it's unbelievably bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's two-tier again. Always, migrants and asylum seekers seem to go to the top of all of our queues: housing, medicine, and so on and so forth. While this guy, gets his handy sex change operation, British people with genuine problems, medical emergencies, if you like, are waiting and waiting and waiting for their surgery. 18-month waits, 2-year waits. This guy straight in for sex change surgery. He's not even allowed to stay here, technically. Unbelievable.
And it probably increases his chances of being able to stay.
Of course.
He'll use it as an argument, won't he?
Oh, of course. I dare say he's probably here definitely already. This is an interesting one. Anti-migrant protesters have been demonstrating outside the headquarters of the Royal National Lifeboat Institute, the RNLI, saying that they're sick of RNLI lifeboats being used effectively as a water taxi service for migrants crossing the channel illegally. They go out, collect them in the middle, pile them onto the lifeboat and bring them into Dover and Folkestone. The protesters saying, well, this isn't what people give their money to this charity for. You know, why aren't the Border Force doing this? Why are the RNLI doing this? Now, I think it's a difficult one. The RNLI will, of course, a fine organisation, of course, will argue, well, you know, we have to save lives at sea. Critics will say, well, you're not really saving lives, are you? You're going out there. Most of these small boats get across fine. You're going out there and you're just picking them up and bringing them in. So it's a it's a difficult argument, but more and more disquiet over the way the RNLI is being used. It's not that I wouldn't blame the RNLI, but it is probably fair to say it is being used by the authorities as a water taxi service, and perhaps we need to look at that.
I completely agree with you. I'm surprised that the protests haven't happened earlier, to be quite honest. If you go back 10, 20, 30 years ago, you know, you would visit the seaside and you would see the RNLI, wouldn't you? You know, ready to take action. And there was some pride in that. You used to think that's a great service, a great charity, doing brilliant work, lots of volunteers in coastal towns, doing really important work. But just speaking as an individual, my attitude and thought processes around that charity have changed radically for this very reason. I suspect donations to this charity have reduced dramatically. It'd be interesting to see. And I also suspect that government subsidy towards the charity has probably increased because, as you point out, everybody thinks they are providing a taxi service for illegal immigrants. I mean, that's the perception, and that's what we see before us. So I'm not surprised. I am surprised that the protests haven't happened earlier, to be quite honest.
Yeah, the question is when the RNLI goes out to the middle of the channel to pick these people up, is it rescuing them? Is it saving them from life-threatening situations? Or is it literally going out there and saying, hop on, we'll nip you into Dover Harbour? A lot of people think it is the latter. And I'm not really blaming the RNLI. I think the RNLI is being used for this purpose. It's being made to do this. And the question is should this be the function of the RNLI? So their headquarters is in Poole, Dorset, and quite an angry demonstration outside there. And I think more and more focus will fall upon the RNLI as our migrant crisis gets worse and worse. Let's go to break, Simon. When we come back, let's talk about our friend Peter Mandelson, shall we?
Welcome to Down the Local, the show that goes from pub to pub across the country, speaking to the punters about the subjects driving us all nuts at the moment.
That
Rachel Reeves, Rachel Thieves, Rachel McCounts.
I don't really know Meghan Markle. I know Meghan Markle's from Suits, and that's about it.
I don't know about anyone else, and I don't know where this is going. I have 0% beard, and I feel
Raising the flag, I think, is symptomatic of this desperation.
Is public transport good value for money?
No, it isn't.
You really don't like speaking to people.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with former Labour MP, now Reform UK member, Simon Danczuk. Simon, before we get to our friend Peter Mandelson, who broke cover yesterday, but he's still at the centre of a criminal investigation by the police into his alleged nefarious financial dealings with Jeffrey Epstein, the American billionaire paedophile, while he was business secretary, while he was a senior official in this government. So he's under investigation. Now, exactly the same evidence from the Epstein files is stacking up against Prince Andrew, or the former Prince Andrew, what he was up to when he was trade envoy. Plus, Gordon Brown says that he needs to be criminally investigated for his links to Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking operation. Gordon Brown saying that Jeffrey Epstein's private planes, he had more than one apparently, bought 90 flights bringing young women to Britain, some of whom were spirited off to Buckingham Palace to be with Prince Andrew, allegedly. Now, all of those allegations, so Mandelson's being investigated. Why do you think it is that with this plethora of extremely disturbing allegations against Andrew, both financial and sexual, why haven't the police launched a criminal investigation against him? They were very fast out of the tracks for Mandelson. Why not Andrew? Do you think it's just old-fashioned cap-doffing deference to the royals?
Well, I think I'm right in saying that Thames Valley Police have been investigating Andrew in relation to whether he leaked intelligence.
Yeah, but it's not a criminal investigation. Informal inquiries have been made. They announced very quickly a criminal investigation into Peter Mandelson, very quickly. And then you saw, it was last Friday week, wasn't it, boxes being pulled out of his, taken out of his Regent's Park home. So absolute grease lightning out of the tracks about Peter Mandelson. Same evidence. In fact, there's more evidence, alleged evidence, against Andrew than there is against Mandelson. Why haven't they announced a criminal investigation into the King's brother? Is it because he's the King's brother?
Well, you've got to ask that question, haven't you?
Yes.
That's why a lot of people in power who have a privileged position get away with lots of different crimes, and we've seen that historically over many years. So you do have to ask that question, but I think the pressure is mounting on Andrew Windsor Mountbatten, or whatever he's now calling himself. I mean, and even King Charles has come out and said we will cooperate in any way required. So I don't think it's going to go away for Andrew. More and more will come out of the Epstein files, won't it? I mean, this is the story that will keep growing. So at some stage, I would be surprised if the police aren't formally investigating it.
Yeah, I think very swiftly they've got to do this. I can only explain their lethargy or their slowness on this. The only explanation is they're a bit worried because he's a member of the royal family. As I say, if you look at the evidence, the alleged evidence against Andrew, it is much worse than the alleged evidence against Mandelson. And the evidence against Mandelson is terrible. So I think they've got to get cracking with Andrew very quickly. Let's talk about Mandelson, though. Yesterday's Daily Mail carrying these extraordinary stories that he took these ghost flights on board the Russian oligarch Deripaski's private jets, being whisked off to strange places to meet people before being whisked down to international conferences to do British government business. And decisions at conferences that he attended going in favour of people like Deripaski and Putin. So the suggestion is, and these flights were never recorded, the suggestion is, or the question the Mail is asking is, why was Peter Mandelson, when a government minister, when a government EU trade commissioner, why was he so close to the Kremlin?
It's a question that certainly needs answering. You're exactly right. He's being flown to Siberia, flown into the Netherlands. This is 2004, 2005, I think. He's an EU commissioner, a British EU commissioner, and he's being flown all over the place, and he's not declaring it, which he should have done. The European Union have come out and said he hasn't declared these flights. And you've got to ask, why is he being flown around by a Russian oligarch? And whose side is he on when he's taking these opportunities? It gives the impression that he's certainly not on the British people's side. It's as though he holds the British people in contempt. I mean, just put this in context. Mandelson is a very senior Labour politician. That's the reality of it. He's been around for 20, 30, 40 years around Labour. Even now, Starmer's taking advice from him. Starmer offers his Mandelson's colleague a peerage. Brown gives Mandelson a peerage. He's advising Wes Streeting, who could be the next Labour leader. This is Labour royalty. And he's been caught at the centre of a whole range of possible crimes. I mean, that's the reality of it. That's why the police are investigating him. I mean, it doesn't get worse than this. And yet you've got Starmer, who's been seen to be very close to Mandelson. He made him US ambassador. And yet we've got Mandelson in this position, and we've got Starmer criticising the Conservatives for a whole range of things when he were in opposition. Look at where we are now in terms of Labour in this Labour government.
Yeah, you were a Labour MP. You were, a member of the Labour Party around the Westminster scene for a long time. What I find strange about Mandelson, he was right at the top, right back to the Blair years. In fact, he was first employed as a press officer by Neil Kinnock. That's how far back he goes. So his tentacles are entwined in the Labour Party going back 4 or 5 decades, for a long time. Harriet Harman said the other day something along the lines of, well, it's always been something of a mystery that he was able to rise to the top and remain at the top for so long in the Labour Party when we all knew from day one that Peter Mandelson was and is a bad man. How do you explain his long reign of terror, if you like, in the Labour Party? Why did so many Prime Ministers think that it was essential to have him right at the top doing senior cabinet minister roles or behind the scenes roles when everybody knew there was something wrong about this guy?
I didn't know him personally, but though I'm sure I've been in the same room as him at receptions and other events and things, but I certainly didn't know him personally. But there was this mystique around him, you know, that he was considered very capable. I think it's illustrative that you mentioned Neil Kinnock. So he worked for Kinnock, and then after Kinnock, you'll recall, it was John Smith who I did meet, and he was leader until he had the heart attack and died. And by all accounts, John Smith wouldn't have anything to do with him and cut Mandelson dry, and I think that tells you something. But, you know, people who I do speak to say that Mandelson exceptionally intelligent, exceptionally capable, but he's quite obviously got this very strong weakness, whether it's around money, greed, his desire to be friends with people, wealthy people, whatever it is that motivates him like that. But apparently, you know, people on all political sides of the spectrum say that he's very capable, and that's why I think people have wanted him around. But you have to question Starmer's judgment. He'd been sacked by Blair, then brought back. He'd been sacked again. Then Gordon Brown brought him back, and then he's out of the frame again. He goes to the EU, then he's out of there, and then Starmer brings him back again, knowing that Mandelson didn't just have an association with Epstein, as Mandelson calls it. They were intimate friends. This is the top line. He was intimate friends with somebody who'd been prosecuted as a paedophile. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. And yet Starmer still felt capable of appointing him to the top diplomatic job in Britain.
It's a terrible, terrible mistake, which of course Starmer has now admitted and seems to think that's okay. Well, I said sorry. I said I made a mistake. Yeah, great. Well, you can't really be Prime Minister anymore, but he doesn't seem to understand that nuance. And I keep hearing, you know, from the Westminster mob, from the bubble boys and girls, how brilliant and how clever Peter Mandelson is. And I just think, well, maybe in Westminster they set the bar pretty low for cleverness, because in my world, clever people don't get caught. This guy can't even take a pee in the street without getting caught. He's been caught every single time. So I don't think he is that clever. But there you are. Simon, great to talk to you, as always. Thank you so much. Former Labour MP, Reform defector Simon Danczuk there. Let's go to break. When we come back, we'll talk to the Research Director at the Centre for Migration Control, Robert Bates, about the migrant crisis. Several cases we need to focus on. That next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's go straight over to my next guest, Robert Bates, Research Director at the Centre for Migration Control. Robert, welcome to the show.
Morning, Kev.
Now, let's talk about this excellent case of the Filipino migrant. We're such a kind nation, aren't we? I love the way that we've helped this guy out. He came here. We don't know whether it was legally or illegally, but at some point he decided he wanted to stay full-time. So he applied. to become a permanent resident. The Simon application was in before any decision came through on that. It looks as if we, the long-suffering British taxpayer, through the prism of the very generous woke NHS, gave this guy a sex change operation. So he had a sex change operation at taxpayers' expense, paid for by the NHS. And what the Home Office did with regards to this was it didn't at all affect his application. They just changed his pronouns on his application form from Mr. to the rather quaint old-fashioned Miss, M-I-S-S. But we paid for a sex change operation for someone who wasn't even officially allowed to stay here yet. What the hell is going on?
At this point, being a British taxpayer is the single most radicalising experience I think these Isles have ever seen. Day after day, this kind of nonsense. But there are two things I should say. It's not perfectly clear his means of arrival. If he was someone here irregularly, illegally, or without the proper paperwork, then the idea that he should have any access to secondary care is really, really, for the birds, quite frankly, I actually think it's a conversation that we need to have a lot more stridently about. One of the ways through which we do start tackling the illegal migration population is to go about creating this hostile environment and to make access to secondary care, to procedures, well, normal procedures as well as procedures such as these, incredibly difficult to come by, because what that goes about doing is making everyday life very difficult. It starts to make actually their ability to function in this society something that's more and more gritted up, and therefore the likelihood of them choosing to remove themselves is far higher. If he is a legal migrant, I think, we charge some legal migrants immigration health surcharge, so they have to pay a certain fee. Hundreds of thousands haven't had to do so in the last few years because of a decision taken by Boris Johnson. But I very much struggle to think that this was the kind of purpose it was designed to serve, this idea of paying for individuals to have these kind of procedures. I think it's time, basically, any foreign national, anyone who's not a citizen of this country, if they are here legally, gets access to only the sort of the rudimental A&E services, and if need be, something that is actually going to be life-saving. I don't think this is really what, in any way, shape or form, the NHS was intended to be doing. And I really think, actually, this is the perfect example of how it's no longer a national health service, but an international health service.
Exactly right. And, you have to feel sorry for all those people waiting, who have been waiting for months, sometimes years, for NHS operations for surgery from our National Health Service. Well, this guy sort of swans in from the Philippines and they said, we'll give you a sex change operation, which is hardly an emergency, is it?
No, and I bet it was straight to the front of the queue, and this is why people are so increasingly aggrieved that politicians don't want to talk about the costs that migration has on the health service. We're told repeatedly that, without mass migration, the NHS would fall apart, and somehow to keep the hospitals running, we need, close to 1 million people coming in every year. Well, less than 1% of those actually arriving on visas are doctors, and the vast majority of those coming in will have no medical training, be no use to the NHS. But then we also need to consider about the quality of those doctors that the NHS is recruiting from overseas. They make up about 35% of the doctors working in the NHS, but yet account for about 56 to 60% of those sanctioned by the General Medical Council. So are we really getting actually doctors that are of a high enough quality to keep the NHS working in a proper functioning manner? And I think actually this will be the next big frontier, I think, when we start having a conversation about why are we seeing the NHS continue to decline, continue to be such an awful standard. I think it's because we've eschewed training our own doctors, and instead we've started bringing them in from red list countries with much lower training standards.
Well said. Now let's talk. This is an interesting development here. Yesterday, outside the Royal National Lifeboat Institute headquarters in Poole in Dorset, there was a small but angry demonstration of anti-migrant crisis protesters who were basically saying they were sick and tired of seeing charity lifeboats being used to go out to the middle of the channel, pick up migrants and take them into Dover and Folkestone or wherever. In other words, being used as what they call the RNLI water taxi service. Now, the RNLI, I mean, no one wants to criticise the RNLI. It's a great charity, does fabulous work, saves lives and all that. And I don't really blame the RNLI for this because I think it is being used rather than doing this on its own volition. But when they go out to the middle of the channel, nearly all of the time, there's no question that they're saving lives, that they're rescuing these people. They're just picking them up and ferrying them into Folkestone or Dover. These demonstrators saying, well, this shouldn't be what the RNLI is for. Why are they doing this? It ought to stop. It's difficult, but what do you think, Robert?
Yeah, I think the RNLI has crossed the line when it comes to the small boats crisis. I know that a lot of people have a lot of respect for it, and it has done a lot of great work for this country. But I think actually, when it comes to the small boats crisis, it really has gone above and beyond just, as you say, the saving lives element of this. We do see sort of leaflets being distributed in northern France, just giving advice on how to board dinghies in a safe manner. And I think what this protest really demonstrates is just a sense of British people having lost faith in those institutions that did used to be for the people of this country, and just a sense now that actually our charitable sector, which used to be a wonderful source of pride for this country, is now almost turned against the people of this country, and is now actually seeming to be more concerned with the welfare or aiding and abetting those that want to come into this country illegally. And this is a burgeoning problem across the charitable sector. It's likely billions of pounds every single year going to from the Treasury to charities that have almost either as their sole purpose or a secondary purpose helping the illegal migrant crisis grow and grow and grow. And, we've seen British sort of individuals that are looking to sort of clamp down on small boats, going to pop boats in dunes and stuff like that, being sanctioned by the French police, but they're not sanctioning the likes of Care for Calais, who go over there regularly and actually tell individuals exactly the best way to sneak into our country, or the best way to make sure that they get picked up by the RNLI whilst in the channel. And I think the whole charitable sector now needs a very, very urgent overhaul, so that those explicit charities that do not have the interest of this country at their heart are completely stripped of their funding. They're completely stripped of all the benefits that come with charitable status. And if they want to try and do the nonsense that they're doing, then they can crowdfund for it and do it as a private organisation.
Robert, great to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time. Robert Bates, Research Director of the Centre for Migration Control. Is he right? Has the RNLI, have our lifeboats crossed the line by constantly going out to the middle of the channel to pick up the migrants on small boats? Because although sometimes, yeah, sure, they're saving their lives, mostly they're not. They're just saying, get out of those boats and get into this lifeboat and we'll take you into Dover. Well, that's not saving lives, is it? That is a ferrying service. That's a taxi service. I don't want to criticise the RNLI as an organisation. It does fantastic work. Of course it does. And the volunteers who work for it are very brave and brilliant. I don't want to criticise the RNLI, but I don't think this is its job. Is Robert Bates right when he says that by constantly picking up these migrants and ferrying them into Folkestone and Dover, the RNLI has turned itself into a migrant water taxi service? And is Robert right when he says that's crossing the line, that they shouldn't be doing this? 0344 499 1000. Before we go to break, Simon Danczuk earlier mentioned the Gorton and Denton by-election several times and several parties, so it falls upon me to tell you all of the candidates. Sir Oinkalot, he is the official Monster Raving Loony Party candidate. Nick Buckley, Advance UK. Charlotte Cadden, Conservative and Unionist Party. Dan Clark, Libertarian Party. Matt Goodwin, Reform UK. Sebastian Moore, Social Democratic Party. Joseph Omichia, Rejoin EU. Jackie Piercy, Liberal Democrats. Hannah Spencer, Green Party. Angelica Stogia, Labour Party. Hugo Wills, Communist League Election Campaign. Those are all the candidates in the Gorton and Denton by-election, which will take place later this month. Next up, Kim Bailey, the brilliant chairwoman of Crowborough Shield. There's another protest down in that Sussex town against the big army camp that has been turned into accommodation centre for 540 young foreign men. We'll talk to Kim Bailey next. Stay tuned.
We genuinely are on resignation watch. There is absolutely no doubt about it. Labour MPs, they say, listen, Keir, your position is untenable. This is all about appointing that rat, Peter Mandelson, who faces a criminal investigation.
Can Keir Starmer survive the Mandelson scandal? We have breaking news for you. We've just been talking about, of course, Morgan McSweeney, the Chief of Staff. We've now had another resignation from number 10. And Keir Starmer's Director of Communications, Tim Allen, has now also resigned. The plot is thickening. The noose is tightening.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
At the moment, I would say that ground zero of Britain's migrant crisis is the pretty East Sussex town of Crowborough. 22,000 people live there, and there's an army training camp on the outskirts of the town, and the government, the Home Office, have decided to change the use of that from army training to an accommodation centre for 540 plus young foreign men, asylum seekers, migrants who came across the channel illegally. The poor people of Crowborough, since this initiative, don't even know how many guys are in there so far because the Home Office won't tell them, which I think is an outrage. Today, as there is every Sunday, there will be another mass protest by the people of Crowborough, joined by other protesters who are sick and tired of this invasion. I don't care if that's not the word you're supposed to use, but we have 100,000 asylum seekers around the country in hotels and military camps, disused air bases, houses of multiple occupation, all over the country, more and more. People are fed up of it. We've got a government doing nothing about it. Let's talk to the chairwoman down at Crowborough Shield, of the Crowborough Shield organisation, Kim Bailey. Good morning, Kim.
Morning, Kevin.
You all set for another protest today?
We are, absolutely. Just praying that the rain will hold off. But even with the rain, it doesn't seem to deter people from coming out. I think last time it rained, we had about 2,000 people still. So, yeah, just fingers crossed. I don't like the rain.
Yeah, well, no, I remember before Christmas, she said, oh, I'm really worried it's raining and nobody will turn up. You've got the biggest crowd ever.
It's huge.
I don't think there are any fair weather anti-migrant crisis protesters. They'll come out rain or shine, seriously. Any developments? You and I discussed on Friday. This sort of disturbing incident involving this local councillor, Green councillor Anne Cross, announcing in a council meeting, oh, guess what I've been doing? I've got my grandchildren to paint. Me and my grandkids got together, we painted Valentine's cards and we're sending them to the migrants, to these young foreign men in the migrant camp, the former army camp in Crowborough. People have been saying this is just, well, first of all, not representative of the way the people of Crowborough are feeling about this imposition of 540 young foreign men on your pretty little town, but also it's weird. It's disturbing, isn't it?
I don't think there's any rational person in the UK or even beyond the UK that would think that sending Valentine's cards from children to single men is a rational thing to do. It's disturbing, and I think she should be utterly ashamed to put those children at such risk. But it's not just her grandchildren, she's putting all children at risk, because, you know, the connotation of Valentine's is romance. And when you're giving Valentine's cards to men who have come from backgrounds where it's acceptable to marry children, is just encouraging it. And I think there was a good piece that someone on another media outlet saying that you can hear it now in the courtrooms, that actually this was an invitation. This child invited me to have a romantic encounter. I think it's just so irresponsible, and people in office should be held to a higher standard. But, you know, Rachel Millward is the deputy leader of the Green Party. She's also a mother, and I would have expected her to come out and say, this is madness. But I think at the weekend, yesterday, there was actually a protest, a counter-protest here in Crowborough, where these people, including, I believe, Anne Cross was there, stand up to racism and actually defending the fact that she's giving Valentine's cards to these men.
And she said, when asked, well, why are you doing this, she said, oh, you've got to feel the love. I mean, it's unbelievable. Now, isn't this at the heart of why you're protesting, why you're so worried about the grim prospect of 540 plus young foreign men from God knows where, who've all broken into the country illegally, being imposed on your relatively small community? These guys, they're not allowed to work. They'll be milling around your town. We know, you know, hate to say this, and I'm not in any way saying that the majority or they're all sex fiends or anything like that, but disproportionately around the country, asylum seekers, foreign nationals are disproportionately charged with or convicted of sex crimes. What you're worried about there in Crowborough surely is the safety of your children, safety of the women of the town, aren't you?
Well, I mean, it's safety for everyone. I mean, we filed papers on the 11th of February for the hearing on the 25th of February to have our judicial review, or to get permission for our judicial review. And the key thing is that there's been no risk assessments, there's been no impact assessments. So how they can say that this, I mean, actually what the Home Secretary is saying is that it's emergency powers and it was all done in secrecy, but no decision was made. And so obviously she's trying to get the case dismissed. But the argument is there are common laws and there are human rights laws that also apply to us, not just people coming in from other countries. Everything has been bypassed. The Home Secretary is trying to use emergency powers to say that this is defendable, her decision. But actually, where's the emergency? What is this emergency? Emergency powers are reserved for times of war and plague, not the fact that we need or want, it's not even a need, we want to close asylum hotels and therefore as a national emergency. So the key thing is that there have been no risk assessments, so no one can ascertain what the risk is to women, to children, to the asylum seekers, to the rest of the town. It's all just been done so underhandedly that there's no documentation. Even Wealdon District Council weren't given information to be able to say, right, you know, where's the infrastructure, where's the things that we can, mitigations we can put into place to make sure that people are safe. It's all just been kind of roughshod through without any consideration and no risk assessment. So yes, everyone is at risk potentially.
But one of the things that you don't know at the moment, I mean, you've been in a vacuum of no information from the government all the way along. The Home Office just has not collaborated with you, the local community, in any way. And one of the things you don't know, you know that the capacity of your local army training camp for migrants is, I think it's about 547. They will all be young men of sexually active age, I should say, 16 to 34. But this stage, they started moving them in about 3-4 weeks ago, didn't they? At this stage, they won't even tell you how many migrants are in there?
Nope, so they won't tell us anything about the camp whatsoever. I mean, I'm in close contact with the police, so we've got a dedicated police officer that I liaise with over anything that might be of concern. So that's going really well. The problem we've got is Wealdon District Council have never come on board, and they've publicly said that they won't support Crowborough Shield, and actually their priority now is making sure that the asylum seekers are okay in the camp. So whilst they've not been engaged at all with this community, they've actually gone one step further now and publicly saying that they won't be supporting us, and that actually their priority is the migrants in the camp. And obviously it's a Green Party and Lib Dem coalition. So it's even worse. You know, we can't even rely on the people that were voted to represent this town have literally turned their backs on us. I mean, there are a few very good councillors in that council in Wealdon, but the actual leadership and the alliance have literally turned their back on this town.
Yeah, and at least one of them is not listening to you. She's too busy making Valentine's cards with her grandkids for the migrants. It beggars belief. Good luck with the demonstration. What time does it start, Kim?
10 a.m.
10 a.m. Crowborough. Be there, folks. Well done, Kim. Great to talk to you as always. More politics next. Stay tuned.
Hello from Crowborough, where the local residents are enraged with what has happened to their community merely overnight, when just 27 single male asylum seeker illegal migrants were bussed into their military training camp. Behind me are local residents, people from all over the country. Shabana Mahmood has said that this is an effective way of getting rid of those expensive, flashy asylum hotels. But unfortunately, these people are still placed within the community.
The whole town is very afraid because these are unvetted men from countries that are, the government warn us not to go to. I've got an 18-year-old daughter and she gets the bus opposite camp.
Do you feel safe for her?
No, so that will have to stop. We'll either have to wait with her or take her to wherever she needs to go.
The reason I'm here today is because I live in Crowborough and my family, I've got a wife and children, and just worried about, my wife walking to work and my sons, walking about. Anything can happen, can't it, that nowadays and age, all what's going on, what's happening in this country. So I'm just concerned and frightened,
There was support from other towns, other communities, because of course Shabana Mahmood has threatened other communities, and she said they're going to open site after site after site. Well, I would hope that if she's going to try and do that, she learns some lessons about the way she's done it in Crowborough, because this is not finished. We are not finished objecting to this plan.
Crowborough says no! Crowborough says no! Crowborough says no!
We would urge her to reconsider, and whatever she does, she needs to talk to the people that she's imposing these things on.
You had a direct line to Keir Starmer and Shabana Mahmood. What would you say to them?
Look after your most vulnerable first. It's your priority to look after your vulnerable.
If they're bringing illegal immigrants into a camp in the dead of night, why are they doing that? They're doing that because it's disingenuous, it's dishonest, it's covert, and they're trying to keep the reality away from the local community of what they're actually doing to us. We've now got to the end of the entrance to the camp, we've got cameras, we've got police drones. It's like a cloud that's come over this community.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Get a lot of calls, a lot of texts about the Filipino migrant who got free sex change surgery on the NHS, in other words, on British taxpayers before he was approved to stay in this country. So while he was waiting to be allowed to reside in Britain, we gave him free sex-trained surgery, while other patients, British citizens, await emergency surgery or surgery for medical conditions. What is that all about? Also, a lot of response to the question, should the RNLI, our lifeboat service, brilliant charity, does fantastic work, brave people, all that, should they, though, be heading out to the middle of the channel, picking up migrants and bringing them into Dover and Folkestone, like a water taxi service? Occasionally they do save lives from the small boats, but mostly it's not about saving lives. It's about getting them out of those dinghies, putting them onto a lifeboat and bringing them into Dover or Folkestone. Water taxi service. That's not what they're for. Lorraine says, I have cancelled my direct debit to the RNLI. What people must remember is whilst they are performing a free taxi service and hours spent to illegal migrants breaking into our country, they are not available for the real job of rescuing people. That's an interesting point as well. Here is Simon says, the illegal boat people are deliberately putting themselves in harm's way, not what the RNLI is formed for. These boats should be held inside the 12-mile zone and the French told to take them back. Yep. Sharon, the RNLI is being funded by the British people. Why the hell are they helping the illegal immigrants that come on the small boats? This is not what the British people fund them for. I think the British people should stop giving the RNLA money completely. Well, I wouldn't go that far because they do great work, but it does seem a lot of people feel, as Robert Bates said earlier, that when they go out to pick up, to offer a water taxi service to migrants, that they cross the line. This isn't what they're for. Let me know what you think. 0344 499 1000. Now, let's go over to my next guest. We've got lots to come in this hour. We're going to have a bust-up between Peter Barnes, political strategist from the right, and Andy Williams, political commentator from the left. So they'll go head-to-head. We'll get what they think about the various issues of the day. But first, let's get exactly that from Reform UK London Assembly member Alex Wilson. Morning, Alex.
Good morning, Kevin. How are you doing this morning?
I'm okay, just about, I guess. A bit too early for a Sunday morning, but there you are. Now, obviously, these are seismic times, Alex. On Friday, Rupert Lowe surprised us all because he's been making a big thing since the moment he launched Restore Britain, and I know this because I interview him quite regularly. He always makes a big point of saying, it's not a party, Kevin. It's a movement. It's a movement. He made a big thing of that. Suddenly on Friday, he just tweeted, I am today launching Restore Britain as a national political party. So he suddenly changed it from a movement to a political party. This was swiftly followed afterwards by a supporting tweet by Elon Musk. Join Rupert Lowe in Restore Britain because he is the only one who will actually do it. Now, this has fragmented the right. And today, an instant poll has revealed that already Restore Britain is on 10% of the vote, right up there with the Lib Dems. So something has happened. This is going to damage reform, isn't it, Alex?
Well, it's unhelpful, but who it's most unhelpful to is everybody on that kind of centre-right of British politics that wants an opportunity to save our country from this terrible, terrible Labour government. And you mentioned that poll. I should just say that that poll was not using the company's standard methodology. It deliberately prompted the name of this new party in the initial question wording, and there was no turnout filtering, so it can't be directly compared with Find Out Now's regular weekly voting intention tracker polls. So it's not comparing like. Also, remember when all the talk of Corbyn setting up your party. They had similar, initial high poll scores, and then look at where they've gone now. So yes, it's annoying, it's frustrating. I wish it wasn't happening, but let's not jump to too many conclusions too quickly. It takes a huge amount of effort to get a new party off the ground. We know that from what we've done with Reform. It took a lot of hard work, a lot of cash, and a lot of building that branch network and getting people on the ground doing stuff. You can't just do it with online vibes, and that's where Rupert's very strong online on social media. I'll give him that. But beyond that, his recognition isn't anywhere near as much what he thinks it is. There was another poll recently from JL Partners showing people photos of Rupert, and 86% people didn't know who he was, and that included 7 out of 10 Reform supporters who you would have thought would be his key target audience. So let's not get ahead of ourselves. It's annoying, it's frustrating. I wish it wasn't happening, but I don't think it's going to have the impact that he thinks it might do.
Well, I'm not sure about that. The problem here is, Alex, that, Reform UK, obviously are miles ahead of everyone at the moment in terms of the polls. How many votes they will get, whether they get an overall majority even tomorrow in an election is a moot point. But going forward, if you have a fractured right, and what's happened with Restore Britain is it has fractured the right even more. So you've got obviously the Tories, you've got Reform, you've got Ben Habib's Advance UK, now Restore Britain. That is a very fractured right. And with that, if all of those factions remain separate and are not united, the chances are that a kind of mad mosaic of the deranged left could form a coalition. After the next election, that would be, Labour, probably under Ed Miliband. You'd have Zach Polanski in there, the crazy Greens. You'd have the Lib Dems and all the other Gazans and all that lot. They could form a majority to defeat the right unless the right somehow or other managed to unite. So what Rupert Lowe has done is fractured the forces of the right even more and made, if you like, the potential for a left-wing coalition to defeat the right at the next election. That's kind of worrying.
Well, on that, you're absolutely right. If it does have an impact, then the only way it can have an impact is to basically be the difference between whether Reform can get an overall majority or whether there's a hung parliament, in which case that coalition of chaos that you talk about could form. The only person or the only people that benefit from Restore being launched as a political party are Zach Polanski and whoever replaces Keir Starmer as leader of the Labour Party. So my appeal to those who are considering supporting or voting for Restore, look at the bigger picture. We've got a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity here to smash the old two-party system. We've got the Conservatives out in 2024. We can get Labour out in 2029 or sooner, if an election comes sooner than that. But the only way you can do it is getting behind Reform. So get on board or get out of the way. We don't need this splitting, fracturing on the right.
But you could say that as much as you like, Alex. But
the only person who can be the next Prime
but
Minister.
you could say all this stuff, but people aren't just going to go, all right, we'll get on board Reform. Loads of people are saying we love Reform, we love Rupert Lowe. They're going to go with Rupert. They'll go with Ben. You can say this stuff, but it's not going to happen. And there's a problem with Rupert Lowe, Ben Habib and Nigel Farage. It's not just political differences. Personally, those three don't like each other. So I don't see Restore Britain, Advance UK and Reform UK ever forming any kind of pact. So they will remain fractured is the likelihood, isn't it?
Well, my appeal is to the supporters, not to the leadership of those organisations. Both Ben and Rupert have made it clear their primary motivation is resentment towards Nigel rather than...
Well, yeah, but get used to it. That is going to be a problem, isn't it?
They are true patriots and they should get on board. But
yeah, but they're not going to, Alex. There's no point in just saying, oh, they've made it's personal, they don't like Farage. The point is, it's a fact. It's going to be really damaging to Reform UK, isn't it? Now you've got Restore Britain and Advance UK, not to mention the Tories. This is damaging.
Well, let's see how many candidates they field in May at these crucial local elections across the country and the Scottish and the Welsh elections. Up until now, in council by-elections across the country since the general election, I think Advance have only fielded 2 candidates, and that was actually the same candidate standing in both a district seat and a county seat, and they got nowhere. Yeah. So let's see about that. It takes a lot of effort to motivate and organise and mobilise a political party.
Yeah, I know.
On the
okay, they're not going to be organised. They might not be organised enough, but you would concede that what's happened is worrying, isn't it?
I've said at the beginning it's distinctly unhelpful. I wish it wasn't happening. But let's
unhelpful, but is it worrying?
Well, It's unhelpful. It's frustrating.
Go on, say it's worrying. It's worrying, isn't it?
Fundamentally, you need to be organised on the ground.
Yeah.
I don't think either Advance or Restore have got the capability to do that, because I know from the experience that we've had with Reform, it takes a huge amount of organisation, patience, of
I agree
input
with that,
to get there. And it took us 5 years to get to where we are now. Let's see what happens in May. I think those elections will show, as the local elections did last year, that the real challengers for this absolutely failing Labour government. And let's remember, our target, our real opposition is Keir Starmer's Labour government that's committing us to net zero, that's opening the borders, that's taxing business out of existence. That's the real enemy. Let's focus on that.
Okay. Do you have a personal view on how long Starmer will last?
Well, I'm surprised, to be honest, that he's still there. I thought after Anas Sarwar went over the parapet and called for his resignation, that should have triggered a whole load of others doing the same. It didn't. But I think he's living on borrowed time. We'll see what the results are in those elections. Obviously, the Gorton and Denton by-election first, but then the local elections in May. He certainly won't survive beyond those. Certainly, if the Labour Party's got any instinct of self-preservation, then they'll do him in then.
Alex, all good to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time. Always a pleasure. Alex Wilson, their Reform UK London Assembly member. Let's take a couple of calls, shall we? Let's go to David in Gloucestershire. Hi, David.
Good morning, Kevin. How are we all?
Tired, but alive. What would you like to say?
Well, I think everybody is missing the point with Restore UK.
Yeah, go on.
Right. What they're going to do is they're only going to need to field 50 candidates.
Yeah, go on.
In Nigel Farage, Richard Tice, Robert Jenrick, and those head honchos seats. Split the vote. And if they don't get in, even if Reform do really, really well, I don't think they can win the election. I really don't. I'm a Reform member and I've been for over a year. I've just had my membership returned. And I hope they can. But I don't think this next election, I really do think Reform and Conservatives have got to put their heads together, and all these other parties.
Yeah, I was going to say, David, because, I agree with you that if you want the forces of the right to win the next election, whatever you think, the best thing will be for Farage and Kemi Badenoch or whoever's leading the Tory party to form some kind of peace pact. But now we've got this new element, haven't we? Or these two new elements, Restore Britain, and of course not forgetting Ben Habib's Advance UK party. So you've got a very fractured right. Do you think that, in your ideal world, would Reform, Restore UK, Restore Britain, Advance UK and the Tories all get together?
I would like to think so. Not necessarily in a coalition, but necessarily, right, will you stand in those seats, we'll stand in those seats.
So organise it like that, yeah.
Yeah, I really do think they've got to do that to save the country. And let's wipe the bloody left, let's wipe the left off the face of the planet. But I think if Restore just gets that, I'm saying 50 seats, but you'll know which ones, but I'm just saying Nigel Farage, Richard Tice, Robert Jenrick, the other few names that we can think of. What they'll do is, if Reform do really, really well and get let's say they get 250 seats, but if they've knocked the head off Reform, where are they going to be? They're going to be...
No, exactly. I mean, I just think, it's kind of sad that, and it happens on the left as well, but on the right, basically, you've got a lot of people who aren't very different politically, but they're all attacking each other. They're all at war with each other. Unity is probably what they need. But interesting times, David. Really good call. Thank you for ringing.
Okay,
David in Gloucestershire. Let's talk to Barry in Norwich. Hi, Barry. What's your take on Reform and Restore? What should happen?
Hi, good morning, Kev. Yeah, I'd like to make a couple of comments on both, if I can.
Yeah, go on. Of course.
I was a Reform voter.
No.
I say was because recently it's filled up with all the people that I voted against.
Yeah, well, you mean the more and more Tories are joining the Reform? Yeah.
I mean, you've got Smilla Braverman, who was the Home Secretary, twice sacked. Robert Jenrick, you didn't know what he was doing. He's
Immigration Minister.
Boris Johnson's retirement cabinet is what I call it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I shall be voting Rupert Lowe because I like Rupert Lowe. I liked him when he was in Reform. I like what he's got to say. He's quite local to my area. i.e. Great Yarmouth.
Yeah. Here's the thing, Barry. It depends how people vote. I'm a big fan of people. People say you should vote tactically. Do this strategically, and all that. I'm a big fan of urging people to vote go with their hearts and their heads.
Yeah.
What do you feel? Who do you feel you want to vote for, and then vote for them? And that, And I think that what you're saying in terms of Rupert Lowe, a lot of people feel that he says what they think, that he is their man. Ben Habib as well gets a lot of that as well. So, if you feel it, go with the flow, I guess. Why do you think? Do you think that the Reform UK project might be stalling a bit because so many ex-Tories are joining?
The reason why I voted Reform in the first place is because I thought they were anti-establishment. Right? I thought they were going to be the party that, turns the place upside down, drain the swamp, coin phrase, and get the country back on track. But now, I just think Reform, and if Nigel isn't very careful, he's going to turn into the party that he never wanted to be. It's just full of, and there's a lot of people like me who think the same way as me, who just see Reform turning into another Tory party. You say about Reform and the Tories merging, they're already merging.
Yeah. Well, they don't. I mean, they may represent a similar kind of outlook, but they're not. They're certainly not together. And again, I mean, would you, in the end, Barry, in order to at least stop this kind of potential mad lunatic left coalition that could sort of form the next government, would you prefer? I know you want to vote for Rupert Lowe, but if Lowe, Habib, Farage and Badenoch could all get together to at least unite for electoral purposes, would you go with that? Would you accept that in order to try to make sure that Ed Miliband and Zach Polansky don't get to run the country?
I suppose I would, because that's just a nightmare on Elm Street on steroids for me.
It is, isn't it?
Do you know what I mean? Yeah, right, yeah. So, I would, because I just dread to think what this country would turn into. I can't even fathom it, do you know what I mean? Mr. Polansky and Miliband running the show.
Well, this is the problem, though, you see. A lot of the Labour Party are now saying that Ed Miliband is the safe option to take over from Keir Starmer, is the safe option, because they think the only way to beat Nigel Farage is to offer this kind of serious left-wing alternative. So Labour will go maybe with Ed Miliband. He'll hook up. He's already in talks with Zach Polansky. They'll drag in that useless lump, Ed Davey, and you'll end up with this mad mosaic of left-wing lunatics who numerically could beat the forces of the right, particularly if the forces of the right are split. So here we go. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Barry, really good to talk to you. Another excellent call. Thank you so much. Keep in touch. Barry from Norwich there. Let's go to break there. Let me know what you think about all that. 03444991000. It's a very tense and interesting situation, isn't it? The forces of the left talking about all getting together so they can beat the forces of the right. The forces of the right insisting they'll never get together to beat the forces of the left, but maybe they have to. Would you prefer to vote for just Rupert Lowe, or would you prefer the forces of the right to get together so that we can't have a government, we can beat a government run by Ed Miliband and Zach Polansky? I'd do anything to stop that, I'll tell you. What would you do? 03444991000. Next up, we're going to be joined by Pete Barnes, political strategist, a man right of centre, and political commentator Andy Williams, left of centre. They're going to have a sort of punch up and talk through some of the big elections, big issues leading up to the next election over the next few minutes. So that next, stick around.
We genuinely are on resignation watch. There is absolutely no doubt about it. Labour MP, they say, listen, Keir, your position is untenable. This is all about appointing that rat, Peter Mandelson, who faces a criminal investigation.
Can Keir Starmer survive the Mandelson scandal? We have breaking news for you. We've just been talking about, of course, Morgan McSweeney, the Chief of Staff. We've now had another resignation from number 10. Keir Starmer's Director of Communications, Tim Allen, has now also resigned. The plot is thickening. The noose is tightening.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
We're going to get you on the show as soon as we can, so get on the phone, give me a ring. We want to talk about Restore Britain, Rupert Lowe's new party that he announced on Friday, which has already fractured the right. It's bound to deliver something of a body blow to Reform UK, whatever they say. You've got Advance UK, Ben Habib's party, so you've got these two former Reform guys, disaffected Reform guys, have formed their own political party. Rupert Lowe is already garnering a lot of support, boosted by a tweet from Elon Musk: join Rupert Lowe and Restore Britain, because he is the only one who will actually do it. That is gaining Rupert a lot of support. You've got Advance UK as well. Reform UK are losing support because of these two parties. What do you think about that? 03444991000. Who will you vote for out of those? Should they somehow try and mend the bridges, form some kind of peace pact? Is a hell of a long shot, because there's a lot of personal animosity involved with those three guys. And then, of course, you've got the Tories as well. The danger is that with a fractured right, the left, the forces of the left are already spotting their opportunity. And you've got Ed Miliband talking to Zach Polanski at the Green Party, Ed Davey. A crazy, mad mosaic of the left beckons, and that could beat the forces of the right if they're fractured numerically. So what do you think about all that? Who will you vote for? 03444991000. Also, should the Royal National Lifeboat Institution, the lifeboat charity, be operating as a water taxi service for migrants? So the big protest outside the RNLI's HQ yesterday in Poole endorsed it. I say big, it was small but passionate, saying this has got to stop. This isn't in their remit. Why do people give money to the RNLI? Is it to go and pick up migrants and take them into Folkestone and Dover, or is it to bravely save lives? I know why I give it money. It isn't for the former. 03444991000. And why did we, taxpayers and the NHS, fund a sex change operation for a Filipino migrant who hadn't even been approved to live in this country yet? Full sex change operation funded by the NHS, in other words, taxpayers, and he wasn't even a resident here. Why did we do that? 03444991000. In the studio is political strategist Pete Barnes. Pete, good morning.
Good morning.
This is... I mean, you know, we just had Alex Wilson, you know, from the Reform UK party, bravely saying, bravely going, what, you know, they're not organised. Yeah, we know that. Yeah. It's not the point. Ben Habib has already split the right with his party. Rupert Lowe has split it even more. You know, whatever they say, this is a bit of a body blow to Reform UK, isn't it?
Yes, 100%. And actually, I think Reform actually should welcome this, if I'm being honest, because it's feet to the fire time. It's actually time to get something done. You know, Reform have been very good at the kind of the showmanship. This is actually a moment now where I think they have to get the policies together, the kind of core foundational bits that have kind of just been left to the side for quite some time, are now going to have to be front and foremost, because the one thing that Ben and Rupert bring to the table is policies. They bring ideas, they bring kind of a lot bigger kind of ideological grounding to it, and I think this is where the Reform are really going to be caught out, because they've got the showmanship, they've got Nigel, they've got the big kind of where the momentum, but actually there's not a lot kind of backing it up behind the kind of the fireworks and all the rest of it. I do think that that's the bit which has got scared quite a lot of the Reformers, and like you say, they're never going to admit that this is a problem for them, but it really is. I was on a podcast actually with Ben yesterday, actually talking about this, and it's interesting actually that I do think that it's one of those things where the right has always been like this. It's just we've only had one political party, one kind of major institution, and that is the Conservative Party. But now that is fractured, it's all the kind of different shards of glasses I've kind of described it, and yet the right is going to cut itself more now because we're all siloed off with each other, and more importantly, we can't get in the same room. We can't put the animosity to one side and actually defeat the left. We just can't do it, and I think that is a real problem. How we bridge that, I don't know, but I do think it starts with, maybe not calling each other names might be a good start.
Well, yeah, there is that. Now, we don't know that Kemi Badenoch will lead the Tories into the next election. It's just about possible. It may be somebody else. I get the feeling, though, say she is the leader going into the next election, I get the feeling that despite what they all say, that Farage and her probably could do business.
Oh, yeah.
However, the picture has been changed seismically by what Rupert Lowe suddenly did and shocked us all on Friday.
Yeah, it did.
He spent so many months, to me personally, and of course everyone else, but I've interviewed him many times, every time you say, Restore Britain, it's a movement, not a party, big thing, it's a movement, it's not a party. Suddenly Friday, it's not a movement, it's a political party.
Yeah.
That was a massive game changer. Now, the problem is, whereas Kemi and Nigel may pragmatically be capable of making some kind of pact, there is no chance ever of Ben Habib, Rupert Lowe and Nigel Farage mending their bridges, because there's personal difficulties there. They all hate each other.
Yeah.
So, in that respect, the right will remain fractured, and it does bring into play the worrying prospect of Ed Miliband, Zach Polanski and Ed Davey forming a mad mosaic of the left to outnumber the right.
True, but then I look at the last general election when Reform split the vote, and that's how you ended up with Keir Starmer and his big majority. If you actually look at the statistics, most of the constituencies were 2%. The majorities are roughly 2%, and that is what I think it's about a quarter of the Reform vote. If it had gone back to the Tories, he may not have lost the general election, but his majority would be significantly smaller, and his ability to operate is therefore contained. I always said the minute Starmageddon, as it was called, was on the cards, that's when the right should have got together. That's when a pact should have been done to stop that from happening. And yet, that didn't happen because, like you say, a lot of the right-wingers, there's too much animosity, there's too much kind of sniping at each other, and that's the bit that needs to change is, we do have to kind of put down our own weapons against our own side every now and then, and actually, take the fight to the people that we're supposed to be fighting. We are a little too kind of navel-gazing at times.
I get that, but, this is a fact. They're going to say, the Tories and Reform will say until the very last moment, we'll never form a pact.
Yeah.
But they might. They could easily do it. Everybody knows that. Rupert Lowe, Ben Habib and Nigel Farage will say we'll never form a pact. And when they say it, they mean it, because they never ever will. So that will remain fractured. There's a problem.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. This is why I do think that a pact, I think, has actually already been agreed, if I'm being brutally honest. I think somewhere in the back rooms of Westminster,
the Tories
of Reform. And because I look at actually the mechanics of this, because I don't think Reform have the kind of institution to govern. The Conservative Party do. They still have the kind of ecosystem that they've been able to get people involved into the movement, and I do think that's what Nigel has been positioning himself and the Reform to get, and is basically to secure at least a minority government. I think he does that with the Conservatives, because he needs the vehicle of CCHQ. He needs the institutions with the power, who knows where all the levers are, which is why he's got Jenrick and Suella and those people, because they know where the levers are. They might not have been very good at pulling them when they were in charge, but if Nigel's the one actually, you know, telling them what to do, they might stand a better chance. But that's where I think that this has all been heading to, and I think that's why you had such a kind of if you notice, every defection is a kind of a burning of the bridge back from the Conservatives. They can never go back.
Yeah.
So it's very much kind of gearing it up so that the Tories are weak but not dead. That's when Nigel needs them.
And a lot of our audience, a lot of people, Reform supporters, are a little bit dismayed by what they see as more and more Tories, kind of maybe opportunistically joining Reform because the Tories are finished and Reform UK are on the rise. A lot of our audience, a lot of people, I think, are disaffected by that, and they're gravitating back to Rupert Lowe, which is probably bad news for Nigel Farage. Let me know what you think, folks. 03444991000, and in about half an hour I will be joined by the man at the centre of all this, or one of the men at the centre of all of this, Ben Habib, the leader of Advance UK. It'd be very interesting to get his take. So Ben Habib joins me after the 9 o'clock news on the seismic development that unfolded on Friday. Rupert Lowe announcing that his movement to restore Britain was now a political party, and the first poll came out today, and he's already got 10% of the vote. He's up there with the Lib Dems, so that is amazing. Yeah. Right, we're going to talk about Keir Starmer next, and his sort of
never-ending saga.
Yeah, his desperate straits. Big piece by Tim Shipman. There's a great quote in it. So basically, Tim Shipman, who's the political commentator at the Spectator, used to be political editor of the Sunday Times, a man in the know. He's written a huge piece for the Spectator, which was published in the Mail yesterday as well, full of insider tips and quotes about what the hell's going on. All the problems, they say, of Labour are down to Keir Starmer and his weird personality. Can't make any decisions, can't get round to doing anything, keeps overruling other people's decisions and advice and appointing the wrong people to the wrong job, then sacking. Anyway, so they all say, well, it's all our problems, this Uber mess we find out, it's all down to Keir and his character. And so there's a brilliant quote from from a cabinet minister, unnamed cabinet minister, saying, cabinet secretary saying, "We have nothing to fear but Keir himself." We have nothing to fear but Keir himself. Wow. Is that cabinet minister right? Do we have nothing to fear but Keir himself? 0344 499 1000. We'll talk about our beleaguered Prime Minister next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Still with political strategist Pete Barnes. Pete, we'll get to Keir Starmer in just a second. I want to get your take on Andrew, the former Prince Andrew. My question is this. If you look at the evidence, the alleged evidence that's against him emerging from the Epstein files and now from other sources, that just like Mandelson allegedly, we've got these emails that the then Prince, when he was trade envoy, was passing on confidential British information and communique to Jeffrey Epstein, and we now know at least one other banker friend of his. I said banker.
Yeah.
I said banker. Jonathan Rowland, who's the son of David Rowland, who had very close connections to Prince Andrew. So the allegation is that he was passing on these secrets for money. The allegation, with exactly the same evidence, is against Peter Mandelson. Now the police, within seconds, were investigating him criminally down his house, taking boxes away. There's actually more evidence stacked up against the former Prince Andrew than there is against Mandelson. Why haven't the police launched a criminal investigation into the King's brother yet? Is it because he's the King's brother?
I think it is, but not for But I do think it's for a slightly different reason. I think it's if they go for Andrew and they miss and they get this wrong, they've got to get it right.
I agree with that.
And I do think that if they get this wrong and he gets away with it, or he gets off on a technicality, everybody will lose their minds over it. And I think that is why this one is taking a little bit longer. Obviously, he is the King's brother, a member of the royal family. That plays a factor in it. But I do think it is more that they don't want to have the kind of, we were the ones that, you know, messed up the Andrew prosecution as a moniker for their careers. And I think that is a bigger factor. But I do think I heard you earlier on, and I think you are right that the kind of deferential.
I think there's a bit of calf-topping here, but I think you make a good point. In fairness to the police, I will accept. I think there is an element of my God, it's a royal. We can't be me ever so humble, sir. The old system, but also I think you made a good point. I think to be fair to the police, if they are going to officially announce there is a criminal investigation into the King's brother, they've got to get it exactly right. But as I say, they feel they've got it right in the case of Peter Mandelson. They've got to get it right with him as well.
All I can presume as well is that they held two very different positions at the time. So I wonder if it's the kind of the legal kind of marker hasn't been met in all the right ways for Andrew to be able to push on the prosecution. So that's why it's taking a little longer. I don't know, but I just presume that there's lots of little factors that I'm not a lawyer, so I presume that this is what it is. But my theory is on this that they don't want to miss. They can't miss. That's the thing.
Yeah. So fair enough, I suppose. But I think that the police this week, fairly soon, surely within 24 hours. This is Mail on Sunday today. Now there must be a probe into Envoy Andrew. This is all about his business deals when he was trade envoy, his alleged underhand lining of his own pockets while he was supposed to be on British government duty. Also, Gordon Brown, no less, former Prime Minister, saying that Epstein's planes, he had more than one private plane apparently, made 90 flights into Britain carrying sex-trafficked women, and that Andrew was, this is the allegation, this is what Gordon Brown says, was central to that sex-trafficking operation. So Andrew has got to face financial impropriety allegations and selling British secrets allegedly, and also allegations that he was part and parcel of Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking operation. Very serious
allegations. And I do think this bit about the King being involved in the £12 million, I think, is a very big problem. It's disgusting. I think it's abdication territory, if I'm being brutally honest about this, because this stench is going to stick with the royal family for a very, very long time. And I do think a kind of line drawn and will take over might be on the cards, and they'll use his illness as the excuse to take a step back from royal duties.
It was interesting. It was interesting last week. The Sun, I think it was Thursday morning, sensationally revealed something that we kind of always suspected, that the £12 million that Andrew paid to Virginia Giuffre not to go to civil courts in New York, claiming with her allegations that he sexually assaulted her on 3 different continents, allegations that he continues to deny. But he gave her £12 million not to talk about them in a court case, so make of that what you will. He denies her accusations. Nobody believes him, but he continues to do that. The point was, we all knew he couldn't afford that, and the assumption was he went to his mother, the Queen, and she gave. Now the Sun said, yes, indeed, that she did do this to the tune of something like 10 million.
Yeah.
But the rest of the money, Prince Philip, God rest his soul, kicked in some money, and that the then Prince of Wales, Prince Charles, now King Charles, chipped in, more than £1 million himself. Now, if that's the case, he immediately denied that, interestingly, rather forcefully.
Yeah, I think he would.
Because if it's true, but I, in the end, this isn't about... If the king himself chipped into this, then he has... an apology to give us. But he has to apologise for this 12 million quid. Generally, the royal family paid Virginia Giuffre £12 million hush money to keep Jeffrey Epstein's sex secrets. That is a bloody bad look for the royal family.
That is bringing down the royal family territory.
Yeah, it
really is, because it is everything wrong. It's grubby, it's sleazy, it's the most disgusting crimes with the most disgusting people involved in it. It is. I don't know how the royal family will get out of this as an optics problem.
And do you know what they were saying at the time? What the general consensus was, the narrative around it was, well, we couldn't afford that case to go ahead because it's the Queen's Jubilee celebrations. Well, much as the Queen thoroughly deserved her, was it Diamond Jubilee celebrations, what a great sovereign she was, she did make mistakes, not very many, but this was a massive mistake. They should never, the royal family, handing over £12 million hush money to keep Jeffrey Epstein's secrets, just so that the Queen's Diamond Jubilee celebrations weren't affected. That's no good. The King owes us an apology.
I think he owes a big speech to the nation about a lot of this, actually, if I'm being honest.
Mentioning his damn brother.
Mentioning his...
No more of this elliptical stuff.
Oh, no. This
We're worried about the victims,
what is it? We don't say anything, the kind of line. That's out the window now, because they're all implicated in it, and I think it's the only way out of it is a kind of mea culpa. This is what went on, this is everything, and that's the only way I think they can actually kind of get any kind of traction with the public again. Where, because you're seeing it all the time now, where the King is heckled, William's being heckled about it, and it's like a stench now, and unfortunately, unless they kind of clear the air properly, it's monarchy.
It's an existential problem for the royal family. They're not doing enough classically for the royals. The last time I saw them in this amount of crisis was after the death of Diana, when they seriously misgauged the mood of the public. And the public were upset, were traumatised, and the royal family just didn't really seem to pick up on that, and they had to backtrack and they had to seriously sort the situation out. Now they're in big crisis now, and they've got to do something. They've got to start talking. They've got to start talking about Andrew. They've got to start saying sorry for this money. Quickly about Peter Mandelson. Yesterday's Daily Mail, had this extraordinary story about his ghost flights, as organised and paid for by Darek Kosky, isn't it? Darek Pasky, who was a Russian oligarch close to Putin. So all these flights, he was going off to mysterious destinations, and the next day going to conferences on the part of the British government, making decisions that were favourable to this oligarch. Well, the suggestion is, let's stress this, Peter Mandelson insists he's done nothing criminally wrong throughout all of this. But yesterday's Mail asked the question, why was this guy so close to the Kremlin? The basic question is, was Mandelson a Russian spy?
Whether he was a spy or maybe an asset, I'm not sure, but I do think we have to look at the fact that a lot of dirty Russian money has flooded into London, and it is all over the city in general, and I do think that he has some big questions to answer. My big fear is Peter Mandelson is quite smart at times. He may not have done anything illegal. He may know where the line is and have stopped just before the legal kind of qualifier. Now, unfortunately, he does have this tendency to put his feet in it and, get it, up to his neck in it. But I do think on this kind of stuff, I think he knew what he was doing. And I think,
maybe.
yeah, maybe.
You
But we'll
think
have to wait
he's
to
that
see.
clever?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, really?
I do. Yes.
Really?
Only because
Well,
I've heard you on this.
Clever people don't get
No,
caught.
they do. They do. Because this for me.
How do
is
you
actu-
know?
Yeah. Well, because
How do you
basically,
know?
because for me,
There's all the clever people out there who haven't been caught. Trust me.
Well, there's a lot of people who have been caught. There's a lot of people who have been caught, but also in
Clever
America,
people don't get
they
caught.
In
He ain't
America,
that
they get
clever.
to pay off. Well, he's not that clever because he did get caught.
Can't even take a pee in the street.
Oh,
without
well, I
getting
mean,
caught.
I remember when we
It's a
were.
bit
That was
pathetic, isn't
stupid.
it?
Yeah, that was the fall from grace, wasn't it, from the U.S. ambassador to getting arrested in Notting Hill? But
well, he wasn't arrested. He was photographed because he'd been for dinner with George Osborne.
Yeah, I think that's the bigger crime.
He was waiting for an Uber.
I think that's the bigger crime.
It's the one time I felt a lot of sympathy for Peter Mandelson. Yeah, we've all been there. Where is that damn Uber?
Yeah.
I can't wait anymore.
No,
Sorry.
But, yeah, I do think, though, on some of this stuff, I think he wanted to get caught. I think he liked showing off about
that is a very interesting point. This is the thing about Mandelson. Arguably, he's a psychopath or a sociopath.
Yeah.
Now, sociopaths are clever. They love the idea of being grand manipulators, playing everybody, puppet masters. They love being cleverer than everybody else, but they also love sailing dangerously close to the wind, you know, really taking risks.
If you look in crimes, they also get involved in the investigations. They love to be super close to like the people investigating them. Like, you know, it is that kind of a dare you to catch me. Like they want to get caught in a way. And I think that's why Peter Mandelson, it's a lot of this
always
stuff is,
did get caught. Shall we go to break? Big thanks to Pete Barnes, political strategist. Good to see you again,
Yeah,
Pete.
nice to see you. Not on a Friday.
Well, Friday nights we always used to do together. Here we are. What the hell time
I know,
is it? Oh, it's like 20 It's quarter to nowhere on Sunday morning. When we come back, we're going to take some of your calls. 03444991000. And don't forget, after 9 o'clock, after the news, it's Ben Habib. He's going to be fascinating to talk to about what has been happening in the last few days. The seismic creation of a new party on the right, Rupert Lowe's Restore Britain party. It has really put the cat among the pigeons, folks. So get on the phone, though. Next, your calls. 03444991000. See you in a second.
We genuinely are on resignation watch. There is absolutely no doubt about it. Labour MPs, they say, listen, Keir, your position is untenable. This is all about appointing that rat, Peter Mandelson, who faces a criminal investigation.
Can Keir Starmer survive the Mandelson scandal? We have breaking news for you. We've just been talking about, of course, Morgan McSweeney, the Chief of Staff. We've now had another resignation from number 10. And Keir Starmer's Director of Communications, Tim Allen, has now also resigned. The plot is thickening. The noose is tightening.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. We'll go to the phones in just a second. Lots of voice notes piling in. I've got lots about reform and restore. But let's do one first. This is from Anne on Crowborough, where there will today be a protest against the local army camp being turned into an accommodation centre for more than 540 asylum-seeking young men. This is Anne on Crowborough.
Morning, Kev. Anna, sorry. Can I correct you on something, Kev, about Crowborough? You keep saying a military barracks that's been converted into accommodation. No, Kev, it's a military barracks that's been converted into a military barracks to host an army that has invaded us and wishes us harm and wishes to turn us into an Islamic state. Hosted, funded, facilitated by Keir Starmer and his bunch of misfits. Thank you.
Anne, that is Anne's personal view, but I think it's reflective of what a lot of you think. What do you think about what Anne just said? Is this an invasion? Have we in fact moved a different kind of an army into what was a British Army training camp, as in a bunch of asylum seekers, 540 of them. 0344 499 1000. RNLI, lifeboats. A lot of people objecting to the fact that the RNLI lifeboats are being used allegedly as a water taxi service for migrants. This is Vivian on the RNLI. Take it away, Vivian.
Kev, it's Vivian again from Oxfordshire. Just wanted to add that ever since the RNLI have been doing this meet and greet in the middle of the channel, the numbers have gone up, haven't they? It never used to be this amount because they know they're on a safe wicket to get over here. The French escort them out. We meet them in the middle and take them in. I mean, it's a service. It's a cracking service. Anyway, just thought I'd add that bit to you. Thanks.
It's a good point, Vivian. As I say, I'm very reluctant, very reticent to attack the RNLI. It's a fantastic organisation. And I don't necessarily think it's the RNLI saying, let's become a water taxi service for migrants crossing the channel illegally. I just think they're being kind of made to do this. Either way, the question is should they be doing it? And I think that many of you believe the answer is no. Well, let me know. Should the RNLI be going out into the middle of the channel, picking up migrants from small boats who are not actually in life-threatening situations, and then ferrying them into Dover and Folkestone? Should that be happening? 0344 499 1000. Let's go to the phones. Let's talk to Ivor in Hampshire. Ivor, reform and now restore Britain. What would you like to say?
Well, hello. I don't know what the rift was between all of them, but
yeah.
I mean, Ben Habib and Rupert Lowe, they're just going to just ruin it if they're not careful, because it's going to split everything up. Why don't they just? They're all more or less want the same as we do. So why put a spanner in the works?
Well, it goes like this, Ivor. Politics is a strange game. Quite often people who politically, are bitterly opposed to each other, personally get on very, very well. You have lots of friendships in Westminster between, very right-wing Tory MPs and very left-wing Labour MPs. It happens in politics, but also in politics you get people, sometimes who are on the same side, who hate each other's guts, but if they're on the different sides, they kind of animosity can be a massive factor. And the truth is, Rupert Lowe and Ben Habib like each other. They get on well together. There's not a problem there in terms of unity. But Lowe, Habib and Nigel Farage all hate each other's guts. They hate, Ben Habib and Rupert Lowe do not like Nigel Farage, and Nigel Farage certainly doesn't like them. So I'm afraid that it's one of those human situations. Those three will never unite. It is possible that maybe the Tories and Reform might unite before the next election, but as for Restore Britain, Advance UK and Reform UK, I'm afraid, I know what you mean, Ivor, but I'm afraid you can forget it.
It's a shame, really.
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
because Reform are doing so well, and they really got a good chance of doing what everybody wants, normal people.
Yeah, I mean,
it's just a shame that they could water it down.
Well, the real shame is this, as I've been stressing all morning, and I'm sure you agree, is that the forces of the left are seeing their opportunity here.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we're talking about going forward, Britain, I think, is going to be a country of coalition politics.
Oh, God,
and going forward on the left, they've seen the rise of Nigel Farage. They worry, of course, about Nigel forming some kind of pact with the Tories. But then they look at Restore Britain and Advance UK fracturing the forces of the right, and they think, hey, here's our chance. Ed Miliband, Zach Polanski, Ed Davey, all the rest of them get together, and numerically they might be able to beat a right-wing coalition. That's worrying, isn't it?
Well, it is. I mean, it'd be like the Mad Hatter's Tea Party, wouldn't it? The country.
Yes,
really,
it really will. Yeah.
Lunatics. A lot of them will be locked up.
Yeah, the asylum will be in the hands of the lunatics. You're absolutely right. Ivor, really good call. Please call me again. Ivor in Hampshire, they're very worried about the fracture in the right. Are you? 03444991000. Next up, after the 9 o'clock news, it is the man of the moment at the centre of this extraordinary development, these extraordinary developments on the political scene. Ben Habib, the leader of Advance UK, will join me after the news. You do not want to miss that. Stay tuned.
Hello from Crowborough, where the local residents are enraged with what has happened to their community merely overnight, when just 27 single male asylum seeker illegal migrants were bussed into their military training camp. Behind me are local residents, people from all over the country. Shabana Mahmood has said that this is an effective way of getting rid of those expensive, flashy asylum hotels. But unfortunately, these people are still placed within the community.
Whole town is very afraid because these are unvetted men from countries that are, the government warn us not to go to.
I've got an 18-year-old daughter and she gets the bus opposite camp.
Do you feel safe for her?
No, so that will have to stop. Right. We'll either have to wait with her or take her to wherever she needs to go.
The reason I'm here today is because I live in Crowborough and my family, I've got a wife and children, and just worried about, my wife walking to work and my sons, walking about. Anything can happen. Kind of that nowadays, Nigel, what's going on, what's happening in this country. So I'm just concerned and frightened,
There was support from other towns, other communities, because of course Shabana Mahmood has threatened other communities, and she said they're going to open site after site after site. Well, I would hope that if she's going to try and do that, she learns some lessons about the way she's done it in Crowborough, because this is not finished. We are not finished objecting to this plan.
Crowborough says no! Crowborough says no! Crowborough says no!
We would urge her to reconsider. And whatever she does, she needs to talk to the people that she's imposing these things on.
If you had a direct line to Keir Starmer and Shabana Mahmood, what would you say to them?
Look after your most vulnerable first. It's your priority to look after your vulnerable.
If they're bringing illegal immigrants into a camp in the dead of night, why are they doing that? They're doing that because it's disingenuous, it's dishonest, it's covert, and they're trying to keep the reality away from the local community of what they're actually doing to us. We've now got to the end of the entrance.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. This is the final hour of Sunday breakfast at 10 a.m. I'm in the wrong time zone. Peter Caldwell will take over, take you through to 1 p.m. But in the meantime, we have 60 sizzling minutes still to go. And the big story of the day, big story of the weekend ever since Friday has been Rupert Lowe suddenly changing what he was always at pains to stress was a movement and not a political party, Restore Britain, to becoming a political party. That has really put the cat among the pigeons. So on the right, you have a fractured scene. You have, of course, Reform UK. You have, of course, the Tories. You have now Restore Britain. And, of course, the fourth element is Advance UK, the party that is run by my next guest, Ben Habib. Welcome, Ben.
Morning, Kevin. Good to see you.
Interesting times. Now, let me ask you this, first of all, straight question, because a lot of people hope that you will do this. It is well known that both you and Rupert Lowe, you know, do not really get on that well with Nigel Farage and don't foresee any kind of unification between the three of you. But you and Rupert Lowe, despite the fact you're, if you like, on separate paths, you know, have retained an amicable relationship, and politically I think that you're very close. The question people are asking, now that Rupert Lowe has turned his movement, Restore Britain, into a political party, and you, of course, already had your established party, Advance UK, will you two get together? Will you, is it possible that Advance UK and Restore Britain could unite?
So, just to perhaps put a bit more meat on the bones of your comments, Rupert and I are ideologically and politically, philosophically very similar. You could hardly put, you know, a cigarette paper between us. And if you look at the speech that I made a week ago in the Emmanuel Centre on the importance of culture and immigration and so on in this country, we put out a policy on culture and on immigration, our Advance UK did. If you look at that speech and compare it to the piece to camera that Rupert did when he declared that Restore Britain was going to become a political party, it's almost as if we were reading the same speech. And so we are politically, philosophically very, very similar. Rupert initially didn't want to set up a political party. In fact, if I go right back to the beginning very briefly, Advance UK was set up initially thinking Rupert would lead it, in agreement with Rupert that he would lead it.
Right.
He then changed his mind. He wanted to do a movement. I thought a political party was necessary.
Okay.
You can't change anything at the ballot. You can't change anything the way the country's run unless you do it through the ballot box. And so it's taken Rupert Lowe a little while to come round to that realisation. In the meantime, Advance UK has got 40,000 members, dozens of councillors across the country. We set up a national network and we've become registered as a political party.
Okay.
So we are a long, long way ahead of Restore Britain. And when Rupert declared that he wished to convert Restore Britain to a political party on Friday night, you might have seen I put out a little piece of camera that I did yesterday morning, saying that we would be very happy to merge with Restore Britain. It makes no sense for two politically, philosophically aligned people to be doing two separate things when we've already, you know, done all the heavy lifting in order to become a political party. We've established ourselves. We are an established political party now. So we'll just see how those discussions
Any
unfold.
response from Rupert yet?
No response from Rupert yet.
But would you personally be optimistic of the prospect of Restore Britain and Advance UK getting together and forming a
I think it would be a formidable force if Rupert and I got together. We are complementary in many respects. He does certain things particularly well. I do other things, if I may say so, you know, reasonably well. And if
you do, Ben. You're a very good communicator. We know that.
Yeah,
so is Rupert, by the way. But you're both very good at that.
So I think we would be formidable, and we would carry a very big base with us immediately. It remains, you know, all coming together, organisations coming are fraught. You know, the devil's always in the detail, even if the big picture makes sense. So we just need to see what the next few weeks holds. But I'm sure that there will be discussions.
So you intend to get together or to talk to Rupert at the first possible opportunity with a view to a possible unification, which is interesting. Tell me this. I had on Alex Wilson, London Assembly member earlier. Yeah. Reform UK making a lot about, Restore Britain, they're not organised enough, they're not ready for the May elections and all that. Well, that may well be true. But this idea that Reform UK won't be at all bothered by Rupert Lowe forming this party, potentially combining with you, that's for the birds. They must be very worried.
The Reform were already, I have it from people at HQ in Reform, that instructions had already been given to attack Advance UK because of the progress we were making. You can imagine the shockwaves through HQ at Reform now that Rupert has entered the scene. And let's not make any mistake, his announcement, I think, got 20 million views. I can't remember how many likes it is. It's probably pushing 100,000 likes. It's gained a lot of traction very, very quickly. Reform UK will be absolutely petrified about what's going on, and rightly, because Reform UK has vacated that part of the political spectrum which actually created Reform UK, for which they were carrying the torch of hope, and they denounced their own people in many respects. The fact that Rupert Lowe exists now in a separate political movement or party in due course, and I'm doing a separate thing, is because Reform has failed in its aims. It is pivoted towards the centre ground. It's taken on people like Jake Berry, Zahawi, Nadine Dorries, all these kind of liberal Democrat Tories who created the problems which we're now wrestling with. And Reform's lost the plot. We wouldn't exist if Reform hadn't lost the plot.
Yeah, let me... why do you think... you've sort of laid out what your position is there just now, but why do you think it is worth you and Rupert Lowe getting together to foil Nigel Farage and Reform UK?
This is the big misunderstanding. Rupert Lowe is 68, I'm 60, we're both wealthy. We are not in politics because we want to be big political wigs. We're in it because we see the country is facing many, many threats. The very existence of this country, I think, is threatened. That's why we're in politics. We want to save this country. That's why we are sticking to our guns, taking the high road, not the easy path. That's why we're standing firm on our ground. And that's why, actually, Rupert Lowe and I should get together. There's nothing that should prevent us from doing so. We're unified in our aim, which is to save the United Kingdom.
Do you essentially feel that Reform UK, which, of course, when you were part of it, carried with it the hopes and the dreams of the people of the right, people who are right of centre, do you now feel that what the Reform UK has evolved into, with the recruitment of all these Labour Next, no doubt.
They have got Labour in them.
Yeah. But the recruitment of all these former Tory politicians, do you feel that they are betraying the cause of the right?
They're betraying the country. They're giving off the impression that they represent an agenda which would deliver a proud, sovereign, prosperous United Kingdom. And actually, they're absorbing the globalist liberal lot. That's what's happening. You look at the complexion of the people that they've taken from the Tory party. Sorry, let's just get one thing straight. It's not members from the Tory party coming across to Reform that are a problem. It probably isn't even councillors coming across from the Tory party to Reform that's a problem. The problem is taking in ministers, former cabinet ministers, former senior members of the Conservative Party, who were part of the political philosophy which brought this country to its knees. Zahawi is on the record of being pro-immigration. He wanted an asylum granted to all illegal immigrants that were in the country in 2013.
Jake Berry, who I like personally, is a Remainer.
He's a Remainer. How can you stand for an independent United Kingdom when you've got a Remainer? And yes, they say, oh, well, he's changed his mind. He's had a Damascene conversion. Well, he hasn't. And you've got pictures up on Talk at the moment of Matthew Goodwin. Matthew Goodwin used to write articles for the extreme far left paper, Hope Not Hate, denouncing people on the right-hand side of politics. I don't know if your viewers are aware of that. Matthew Goodwin comes from the extreme left of British politics. You do not convert from the extreme left to the right-hand side very easily. There is something very wrong going on in reform.
It is a journey that quite a few people do make when they're younger. When they're younger, they're extremely
Yeah, but not as adults. Not as adults.
Let me ask you this.
Hope Not Hate is an awful organisation. Awful organisation.
Couldn't agree with you more. I'm more sort of hate, not hope. That's my line. Seriously, Rupert Lowe, this is a prosaic question, but interesting. Rupert Lowe has put out a tweet. So, in effect, this is the first policy that he's unleashed now that Restore Britain is a political party and not a movement. He put this tweet out earlier today. Under a Restore Britain government, parents would have the right to take their children out of school for a limited number of days per year without getting fined. Assuming the child is developing well and attendance is otherwise good, families will be entitled to spend that time with their children as they see fit. So this is the issue of parents often taking cheaper holidays during term times with their kids and then getting fined for taking their kids out of school. Rupert Lowe says under Restore Britain, that system would end. They wouldn't get punished anymore. I mean, I don't know where I stand on that issue, but it's kind of a weird first policy to announce, isn't it?
It is an odd one, I agree. It's not.
I was just saying earlier, and now I'm only being facetious, but I just said to producer Chris, I said, oh, what is he going for, the deadbeat parent vote then?
I mean, we at Advance UK, what we're trying to do is we set out a mission statement, we've articulated our political philosophy, and then last week we came out with a policy on culture, which we think is the critical policy we need to establish. And then, because we're losing our culture in this country, we're losing our identity, we're ceasing to understand who we are. And once we've re-established who we are as a people, once we have a policy for that, we'll build all our other policies for the restoration of our sovereignty, restoration of our democracy, restoration of our judicial system, and so on, all coherently, holistically linked, so that when we produce our policy portfolio, we have a robust set of policies that will restore this country to its former secure position. That's how we're going to do it in advance. And I wouldn't say that giving parents the right to take their children out during term time is right up there at the top of our list of priorities.
Well, it's the top of Rupert's priorities. So just to reiterate, Ben, you would anticipate probably tomorrow or within a couple of days, certainly at some point this week, a proper sit-down between you and Rupert to perhaps align the future of both Restore Britain and
we've had a sit-down. We had a sit-down a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
So it's about putting, talking turkey now.
Yeah.
As opposed to a sit-down.
Interesting times. Well, look, while I've still got you, we've still got a few more minutes, so let's talk more generally. Keir Starmer. Never Hear Keir has been in Munich making more of his speeches. If you vote Reform UK, we'll lose the war or something nonsense like that. But, of course, never mind the security conference in Berlin. Let's talk about his security as our Prime Minister. He isn't very secure in that position. He's given a big interview to the Sun on Sunday today saying, I'll still be in charge of Labour. I will take them into the next election. Well, his activity over the last week, firing his entire inner circle, one by one. Morgan McSweeney, his Chief of Staff, his Chief of Communications, Tim Allen. He lost also his Cabinet Secretary, Sir Chris Wormold. And, of course, going back, he's lost Peter Mandelson. This guy has been jettisoning his entire inner circle. in a desperate bid to save his own backside, because his backbenchers don't like his inner circle. They think they're too right-wing, too unaligned with the forces of the left. So he's been busy firing them to save his own skin. But these are the last desperate acts of a man who alone doesn't seem to understand he's a dead Prime Minister walking. His days are numbered, aren't they?
His days are numbered. And when you see a Prime Minister firing everyone around themselves, what happens is they remove all the people they could have blamed for the problems, and they become isolated. And that was one of Liz Truss's biggest mistakes, was firing Kwasi Kwarteng. And the minute she fired him, after that mini budget that she did, all eyes were on her. And so he has now Starmer has drawn all eyes on him. And you're right, politically, he's the walking dead. He's over. The question, I think the only reason he might survive for a period is there's no obvious replacement. Who would you put in there? David Lammy, who thinks Henry VI came after Henry VII, or Diane Abbott, or John Reynolds, who lied about the fact that he was
Ed Miliband,
or Ed Miliband, who can't eat a hamburger without
Ed Miliband is serious. Do you know what people in the Labour Party are saying? That Starmer is obviously going to go, and that the safe pair of hands they need, the safe candidate to replace Starmer, the safe candidate is Ed Miliband.
Yeah, well, if that's the safest candidate you can get, a guy who single-handedly destroyed our energy provision, it just boggles the mind. So they're not spoiled for choices to replace Starmer, and that, I think, may just give Starmer a bit more life.
Yeah, but it can't last too much longer. Well, Ben, we'll have to keep in touch this week because it's going to be a very interesting week. Thank you for joining me this morning. Really good to talk to you as always. Ben Habib, leader of Advance UK, saying right there, in his ideal world, right now, he would join Rupert Lowe. He would unite Advance UK and the new party, Restore Britain, to form one big party, which would present even more of a headache to Reform UK and, for that matter, the Tories. What do you think about that? 0344 499 1000. When we come back, let's talk about that. 0344 499 1000. We'll take calls, and then at 9:30 I'm going to be talking to royal author Andrew Lownie, the man who wrote entitled The Decline and Fall of the House of York, and set the ball rolling in the end for Andrew and Fergie and the situation they find themselves now. Very outspoken on what's been going on. So we'll find out what Andrew Lownie thinks ought to happen to the former Prince Andrew. Surely this week there's going to be the announcement of an official police investigation into the King's brother. If not, I think we've got a problem. I think that the only way they won't announce that this week, the only reason will be royal deference, and we can't have that. All of that, we hope, now is crumbling. You know, why did Mandelson survive so long at the top? Deference to the establishment, to the great and the good, the Westminster bubble gang. Got to end. Sick of it. Why is the Cabinet Secretary, Sir Chris Warmold, who's been there 1 year and 3 months, he's getting fired, basically. Why is he getting a 250 grand, £265,000 payoff? He's getting sacked. He's getting £265,000 of our money to pay him off so that the Prime Minister can save his own sorry derriere. That is not right. 265 grand. It's a joke, isn't it? 0344 499 1000. It's corrupt, is what it is, if you ask me. He said, we're going to clean up the cesspit. He's made the cesspit even worse, hasn't he? It's Keir Starmer. Never hear Keir. We have nothing to fear but Keir himself. Very good quote. Your call's next. Stay tuned.
We genuinely are on resignation watch. There is absolutely no doubt about it. Labour MPs, they say, listen, Keir, your position is untenable. This is all about appointing that rat, Peter Mandelson, who faces a criminal investigation.
Can Keir Starmer survive the Mandelson scandal? We have breaking news for you. We've just been talking about, of course, Morgan McSweeney, the Chief of Staff. We've now had another resignation from number 10. And Keir Starmer's Director of Communications, Tim Allen, has now also resigned. The plot is thickening. The noose is tightening.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Phones in a second. First couple of voice notes. This is Jay on the Reform UK Restore Britain situation. Take it away, Jay.
Morning, fantastic show as always. Look, I know Restore UK is about now with Rupert, which is going to pull the Reform Party slightly, left to right with the Advance UK of Ben Habib as well. But if I was Nigel, I'd sit down with Rupert. I know they don't get on, but Trump didn't get on with JD Vance or Kennedy. So they sat down, they talked business. The fact is, Rupert wants to see the rape gangs dealt with and British women protected in the United Kingdom from sexual assault and rape. We all want to see that, unless you're involved in that some way. Nigel could sit down with him and make him lead MP in that role, protection of women in the United Kingdom against grooming gangs and rape, once Reform are in power. That would get a lot of votes going to the Reform way, put their differences to the side, but know that they've both got a passion to want to stop that. And Rupert is the man to stop that and put pressure on the forces, police force.
Yeah, it's a really good voice note, Jay. There is a problem, though. A lot of people say, oh, can't, Rupert and Nigel sit down, Ben, Nigel, sit down. It's never going to happen. There's personal animosity there. None of those guys. Rupert and Ben like each other, but Ben and Rupert despise Farage, and Farage despises both of them. They are never going to forge a pact. It's sad, but true. Everybody keeps saying it. Oh, they've got to get over this. Well, they're never going to get over this. Get used to it, folks. 03444991000. Let's go to Herbie in Harrow. Morning, Herbie. What do you like to say?
Yeah, good morning, Kevin.
Every time you ring up, we must go, oh, God, what now? What would you like to say today, Herbie?
Welcome to Topsy-Turvy World.
Yeah.
God, dear, oh dear, you couldn't make it up if you tried, could you?
No.
Where do we go from here? If it isn't Mandelson, if it isn't Andrew, if it isn't Sir Keir, if it isn't Rupert, if it isn't Ben, if it isn't this, oh my godfathers, we are in a real state, aren't we, Kevin? Don't you agree?
Yeah, but what do you make of Restore Britain? Reform. Rupert Lowe has really put the cat among the pigeons by suddenly turning his movement, Restore Britain, into a political party, and immediately the first poll revealing he's jumped right up to get 10% of the vote alongside the Lib Dems. He's got the same level of support as the Lib Dems, so he's rocketing forward. Just had Ben Habib on the show saying he wants Advance UK, his party, to link up to unite with Restore Britain and form a party that he says really represents the right, and he says Nigel Farage, by recruiting all these Tories, is letting down the right. Where do you stand?
Well, he sent out a very good advert to, for his party, which I saw the whole thing. He's a farmer, isn't he? He's very wealthy. He gives his money to charity, apparently, his salary from as an MP.
Yeah, he does,
He's talking to the people. Look, farming is in crisis. There's so many other things in crisis. If Ben and Rupert do form, who becomes the leader? That's going to be another problem.
Yeah.
Because there is nothing straightforward, Kevin, in politics. Politics is a dirty business. Now we've got youngsters of 16 coming in, they're going to be undecided. The whole country's be thinking, oh my God, where do we go from here? What do we go now? What do we do now? It's in a complete and utter turmoil. For God's sake, you're giving me migraine on a Sunday morning at this rate.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah, I've had a migraine now for about 3.5 hours. Herbie, always good to talk to you. Herbie in Harrow there. Let's go straight up to Scotland, talk to Sam. Hello, Sam.
Good morning, and thank you for having me on the show. Yeah, I'm really passionate about people being able to see the level of corruption and how many people can see that. Yeah. And what I really put it down to is these parties. Okay, these parties where they corrupt the ministers. Okay, you get ministers coming through, they've got good intentions, they want to do change, they're representative of the people, and then they're corrupted, they're whipped into line, they're forced to follow lines, and we need to get rid of it. We need independent guys like Rupert, like Nigel, like anyone who can be independent and free-thinking and uncontrollable by parties, because that's where the corruption
what do you think now, Sam? Well, you talk about Rupert, you talk about Ben, you talk about Nigel, they're three parties. I mean, the right is fracturing. Restore Britain has fractured the right even more. So, I mean, what do you think about that? Is that a good thing, or is that bad?
I think the fracturing of the great power is a great thing, and I'm a Jeremy Corbyn supporter. I think all of these old guys who've actually got some moral fibre and value should all stand there, independently work together as one government to represent us. At the moment, all these parties are just working against each other, and they're just messing it all up, wasting the money.
All get together. Can you imagine a government that had Nigel Farage and Zach Polanski in it?
But they don't have to agree on everything. They just have to not. They just have to not stand together and stand under these party lines. These party lines are the powers and are the tools of corruption.
Yeah, I know what you mean, Sam. I know what you mean. Certainly something is changing. I think our entire political landscape is changing. As I say, going forward, I think we're going to be a coalition country. But as for, you know, party lines, I think they'll still always be there. But interesting call, Sam. Thank you very much. Sam in Scotland. Let's go to break. Still got lots of calls. We'll take some more later in the show. But next up, after the break, got another one of our banner guests, a really important guest, Andrew Lownie, the royal author, who really set the ball of decline rolling for Andrew and Fergie in his book entitled, his smash hit, blockbuster best-selling book entitled The Decline and Fall of the House of York. And we need to ask Andrew what he thinks about the former Prince Andrew's current predicament. He's got a piece of the Sunday Times today. The allegations against the former prince are stacking up to an almost ludicrous extent, considering that the police have yet to announce an official criminal investigation. They didn't waste their time with Mandelson, but they're taking their time with Andrew. So we'll talk to author Andrew Lownie next. Stay tuned.
The UK on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's go straight over to my next guest, the brilliant royal author Andrew Lownie. Welcome, Andrew.
Great to be back.
Thank you so much for joining us at this ungodly hour on a Sunday morning. At least it's ungodly for me. Let's talk about Andrew. I mean, the situation now is it's almost, I think, getting slightly ridiculous. The sheer volume of the allegations and accusations against the former prince are now extraordinary. They are, without in any way wishing to undermine the seriousness of the accusations against Peter Mandelson, they're more serious. We have allegations, of course, that the the then Prince Andrew, when he was a trade envoy for this country in the noughties, was not only, in effect, these are allegations, of course, which he denies, in effect selling secrets, British secrets, to Jeffrey Epstein, but now he stands accused of selling secrets to his banker friends, the Rowlands, David and his son Jonathan Rowland, plus Gordon Brown, no less, former Prime Minister, saying that Jeffrey Epstein flew 90 flights into Britain full of his various women that he was sex trafficking, and that Andrew was up to his neck in this, that some of these women went directly to Buckingham Palace and he had them spirited in for his own delectation, allegedly. Now, these accusations are extraordinary. They are much more serious than the allegations against Mandelson, serious though they are in themselves. And yet, here we are, a week on, still no announcement of an official police criminal investigation into the King's brother. That has to happen, doesn't it, very soon?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, what I would say is I'm surprised it's taken so long, because some of these accusations have been in the press for 15 years. Many of these revelations, which are described as being new, are actually in my book, and there was no action taken. So I had the associations with the Rowlands, and I had many of these episodes of him basically insider trading. You know, I think it's got to the point where the Met cannot now fudge it any longer. They have to bring charges, investigate and bring charges against him. You're absolutely right. These are more serious in many ways than those against Mandelson, and they move pretty smartish there. We've got now, I think, more evidence about the sex trafficking, so they have two grounds on which to go after him. But I think the interesting question here is, as I say, how it's taken so long for the story to emerge. There are literally hundreds of people, most of whom didn't speak to me, who were involved in abetting Andrew in these activities, going right up, I'm afraid, to the late Queen. And I think there's some wider questions that, I mean, it's not just Andrew who should be the fall guy here, but others. It is, I mean, I noticed from your previous discussion, I mean, the elites now are finally being held to account for running things totally in their own interests. Fergie, of course, also comes out of this badly, and I think we're going to see more and more attention paid on the daughters. I've actually offered material written to the National Crime Agency, offering them to give them a list of people they should be talking to, and material that I have that isn't in the public domain, and I haven't had a reply.
And you made many freedom of information requests to the police about Andrew's activities when he was trade envoy, and every time got them knocked back. They came up with excuses not to give you the information you request. And I think that would be down, let's face it, to traditional cat-doffing royal deference. The police did not want to get involved in investigating the Queen's the King's brother and the Queen's son then. And I suspect that same impulse is pulsing through the veins of the coppers right now. They are reticent to investigate the King's brother, a member of the royal family. But I don't think they can hold off much longer, do you?
No, I mean, my requests actually mainly were to the Foreign Office and Department of Business and Trade. So, I mean, hundreds of them, which were all batted back. I only had a few to the police. But and the Foreign Office told ambassadors not to talk to me. So, I mean, you know, this has been a huge cover-up. But yes, I mean, the police are now saying that the Director of Public Prosecutions are saying they will operate without fear and favour. And I think there's so much public outrage that they can't be seen to do nothing now and kick this into the long grass as they've done before.
And also, Andrew, and I think that this is something that the King has got to address as a matter of urgency. He does not seem to be understanding the urgency and the seriousness of the royal family's predicament right now, which I think is genuinely existential, thanks to Andrew. And the serious issue that the King has got to diffuse is this. We got details from the Sun newspaper last week about this £12 million that was handed by Andrew to Virginia Giuffre. God rest her soul, she took her own life subsequently. He handed her £12 million not to go to a civil court in New York to sue him civilly for allegedly sexually assaulting her on 3 different continents. He denies that. We all say, well, if you deny it and you say you never met her, why did you give her £12 million? Frankly, we don't believe you, which is the only logical conclusion to reach after that set of circumstances. But we learned from the Sun last week. The Sun said that something like 10 million was supplied by the Queen to Andrew because he didn't have the money. Some of the money was supplied by Prince Philip, and that the rest, more than £1 million, was supplied by the King. This was, or the then Prince of Wales, Prince Charles. This was denied the next day by the palace. But either way, I mean the King's or the Prince of Wales contribution, but either way, what this amounts to is because the royal family were worried about overshadowing the police's Platinum Jubilee celebrations, they handed Virginia Giuffre £12 million hush money to keep Jeffrey Epstein's sordid sex secrets. That is a dreadful look. It was a dreadful mistake by the Queen. They should never have funded Andrew. And he should never have handed her that money. And the King needs to apologise and he needs to explain. Am I right?
Well, I mean, I wrote about this in the book. I mean, the sums came, as you say, from Charles as well, though he denies it. It did. And I think the big problem he's got is that he's known about this problem for a long time and he hasn't dealt with it. In fact, they've tried to push it under the carpet, and anyone who raised it was basically either it was denied or they had legal threats or there was some strong-arm tactic used on them. So I think the big question, it's now getting to right to the heart of the monarchy, is what did he know, when did he know it, and what did they do? I mean, I've always said this is a story about financial corruption at the heart of the royal family, abetted by the monarch itself, the late Queen, and possibly by our present monarch. And I'm afraid if it does emerge that Charles knew all about it, then I think there's going to be a public outcry and he's going to have to step aside for William. I think we're getting to that stage.
So you would say then, when the King, or the King's office, very, very swiftly after the Sun broke down how that £12 million was paid to Andrew to hand to Virginia Giuffre, and it involved more than £1 million from the then Prince of Wales, now King. When he denied that, you say he's not telling the truth.
Absolutely. I have a lot more information which I will be revealing in due course about the involvement of the whole family in this.
So the King, when he denied last week that he had any involvement in this £12 million, you say was lying?
I believe so.
That's extraordinary. I mean, but as I say, it is important whether or not the King contributed, but I don't think the royal family made the most horrendous mistake by ever allowing Andrew to hand any money to poor Virginia Giuffre, because that was hush money to keep Epstein's secrets. They should never have done that, should they?
Well, they've been keeping the Epstein secrets for a long time. This was just the latest stage in that process.
And also, last point, Andrew, it's always good to talk to you. I really appreciate you coming on. Your book was full of the most explosive, extraordinary revelations. I always remember when they were first serialised in the Daily Mail, you know, devouring every word, going, my God. But you say that your lawyers kept out a lot of even worse information about what Prince Andrew and the royal family were up to. So that you believe that in terms of the bombshell revelations about Andrew and the royal family and the Epstein files, we haven't heard the worst of it or the last of it.
No. I mean, they took out, for example, all the stuff on Mandelson. I think they took out the stuff on the Islamic Bank. But there's more that I've found since. More people have come forward. I'm seeing, indeed, new people even this weekend. So I've got a lot of new material, and I think there'll be more revelations from the Epstein leaks. I mean, I've seen several things which the press still haven't picked up on.
And that you are going to do a revised edition of Entitled, The Decline and Fall of the House of York, with all this new information that's been emerging. When does that revised edition become available?
Comes out on the 21st of May, and you will be first in the queue for me to come and talk about it.
Yeah, thank you very much, Andrew. I demand that, and I can't wait to read it. Always good to talk to you. Thank you very much.
Good to see you.
Andrew Lownie, royal author there. Extraordinary, saying that when the King last week denied what the Sun published, that he had contributed to the £12 million that was paid to Virginia Giuffre, hush money, please don't go to court, don't tell everybody what Andrew allegedly did to you and his involvement with the Epstein files. When that hush money was paid, the King said, no, nothing to do with me. Andrew Lownie there directly saying he believes the King is lying. Now, if that is true, then it is proved that he's being economical with the truth about his involvement in this £12 million, then that will be it for him. Good night, Vienna. Welcome, King William. Seriously, think about that. 03444991000. Peter Cardwell will be in after the 10 o'clock news. Let's go to break now and spend the rest of the show after that talking to you. 03444991000. Let's talk. It's good to talk on Talk.
We genuinely are on resignation watch. There is absolutely no doubt about it. Labour MPs, they say, listen, Keir, your position is untenable. This is all about appointing that rat, Peter Mandelson, who faces a criminal investigation.
Can Keir Starmer survive the Mandelson scandal? We have breaking news for you. We've just been talking about, of course, Morgan McSweeney, the Chief of Staff. We've now had another resignation from number 10. Keir Starmer's Director of Communications, Tim Allen, has now also resigned. The plot is thickening. The noose is tightening.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm going to take some calls in just a second. Here is a message from Kelly, a text message. As much as I like what Ben and Rupert say, Ben Habib, Rupert Lowe. Their egos risk a further 5 years of socialism and perhaps the end of the UK as we know it. They need to swallow their pride for the good of the country, but egos will probably prevent it. That's what Kelly says. Chris says, talking about our Filipino migrant friend who got a sex change operation before he was even given the right to live in this country. Thank you very much, NHS. Chris says, sex change on the NHS is wrong. If you want a sex change, you should have to pay for it yourself, as it's not life-threatening surgery. It's cosmetic. That's what Chris says. This is Margaret, who says she's currently in Tunisia. Very nice, Margaret. Nigel Farage, Rupert and Ben Habib should get together and settle their differences and relaunch the party into restore, reform, advance for the sake of the country. If they don't, we will be stuck with Labour or worse. You know, I mean, this is what everybody says, but I just don't see it happening. I mean, I kind of wish, I guess, but, you know, ain't gonna happen. Ain't gonna happen. Maggie says, if Habib and Lowe cared about this country as they say they do, they would never have done this. They've done this, especially Habib, out of revenge, no more, no less. I will personally, as others will, blame them if the vote is split and we get another Labour government. Well, yeah, OK, Maggie, fair point. Maybe Farage should reach out to them. I don't know. You know, I don't know. Shall we listen to a voice note? This is Ellie from Crowborough.
I used to live in Crowborough because my dad worked for the Foreign Office, and then we moved up to Milton Keynes because it's Foreign Office up here. Crowborough's a lovely place. I feel so sorry for them. When I moved up here and I was of age, I bought my own house. I spent 24 years paying the mortgage off because I had every intention of staying there, and then all the HMOs sprung up round me. I've got two young blonde daughters. I didn't feel safe, so I had to sell my beloved home that was bought and paid for, and I was expected to die in, and I had to move. It's disgraceful what they're doing to us.
Thank you very much, Ellie, there on Crowborough, who used to live there. Big demonstration going to happen there in about an hour and 10 minutes. Starts at 10 a.m. Another one of their protests about the big army camp in that town that's been converted into an accommodation centre for more than 540 young foreign men who broke into this country illegally on small boats crossing the channel unlawfully. Isn't that special? Let's go to the phones. Let's talk to Stephen in Manchester. Hi, Stephen.
Oh, hello there. Good morning. My thunder has been stolen by everybody else because they're all saying what I was going to say. We have a mad situation. This country is 1 minute to midnight on a cultural, a demographic and a financial basis.
Yep.
And these three men, Ben Habib, Rupert Lowe and Nigel Farage, need to get themselves sat down and at least step aside for each other in certain areas. Otherwise, we're going to end up with a fragmentation and 5 more years of this nightmare, which is destroying our country.
I mean, it's very well said, Stephen. I think the problem is that hell will freeze over before Farage, Lowe and Habib settle their differences. They don't like each other. It's not going to happen is the problem.
The issue here is that the level of, shall we say, political sophistication that you will get in an electorate is, you know, sometimes limited.
Nicely put.
Well, there will
no, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Yeah, totally. Well, there's a problem, though, Stephen. It's a bit like when people say, the government's got to get round the table with France so we can bash out a way to solve the migrant crisis. It's a waste of time. France will never help us solve the migrant crisis. And I'm afraid when people say, Nigel, Rupert and Ben have got to get around the table and settle their differences, it's just not going to happen. It's a shame, but it's true. But I take your point. Really good call. Thank you, Stephen. Stephen in Manchester there. Let's speak to Robert. Oh, no, he's gone. No, we've got him back. Robert in Hertfordshire. Hello, Robert.
Hi, Kev. Nice day for it.
Yeah, lovely. Yeah, nice day. Yeah. You're a Reform member?
I am, but I didn't renew it. I joined Reform a couple of weeks after the general election just to cheer myself up.
Yeah.
But I don't trust Nigel. I think he's a bit of a snake oil salesman. I quite like him. I watch his programme. But what's going to happen? The right are going to eat themselves. And it's as simple as that. I like Ben Habib, as my dad used to say, I like the cut of his cloth. But you need something more severe. You know, you've got to look at people like Nick Lownie. I know it won't happen.
Yeah.
But unless these three people, like you said, get together, they're dead in the water. And it's all about, I mean, Nigel's a narcissist, and probably Ben is, and Rupert, I don't know. But
either way, I mean, who knows about that? But what we do have, in terms of those three guys, Rupert and Ben get on very well. And Ben Habib was on this show just now, 9 o'clock, saying that he hopes that Advance UK and Restore Britain will unite and form one big party. So they get on well. But neither of them like Farage, and Farage hates both of them. You got a personality problem here, that those three guys will not, they're not constitutionally able to form any kind of peace pact. They won't.
I don't like the idea of Nigel taking on ex-Tories. I just don't like that. That's going the wrong way.
That's interesting you say that, Robert. I think a lot of Reform UK supporters are uncomfortable about the number of senior Tories, you know, former Tory cabinet ministers, you know, joining Reform UK. So if you take someone like Nadine Zahawi, I mean, you could say he was one of the architects of what went wrong with this country. You know, this was a guy who at one point said, let's let all these migrants in because they're good for the country.
Well, he's a bit slippery, you know, in his financial dealings. I mean, I know
yeah, there's that as well. Look, I mean, I just think we've got a problem, but interesting call, Robert. Thank you very much for ringing. Robert in Hertfordshire there. Peter Carball will be in, as I say, in just a little while to let you know what he's got lined up for your entertainment from 10 p.m, I keep saying that. I'm used to the evenings, 10 a.m. all the way to 1 p.m. In the meantime, though, let's talk to Tom in Cornwall. Hi, Tom.
Hi. The main tenet of Reform's philosophy was country before party before person.
Mm-hmm.
And Ben Habib and Rupert Lowe have totally gone against that philosophy, and I think they're scandalous in what they're doing. They're splitting the chance of us actually getting the country back on course. Reform looked like they could win the next general election. I hope they do. They are our last chance. And these two people just, they've been kicked out of the party.
Well, they say, they haven't been kicked out. They both quit. But they say that Nigel Farage and Reform are betraying people right at their right of centre supporters, and that the right of centre people should vote for them and not Nigel Farage.
All this right of centre, left of centre is nonsense as well. I came from the Labour Party. I voted no in 1975, and we still haven't got Brexit. You have person after person come on there talking about how it's failed or succeeded. It hasn't happened yet, so they can't talk in that sense. But Ben Habib and Rupert Lowe are good politicians, but they are in it for themselves. It's purely a personal thing, and they are...
Don't you think Nigel Farage is in it for himself?
Pardon?
Don't you think Nigel Farage is in it for himself?
I think there's an element of that, but he's there first. He has formed a huge party with a huge following, with a real chance of ousting the old two-party system and getting the country back, getting our country back. That's what the grassroots Reform voter wants. They want their country back. They want a secure border. They want a proper immigration policy. And that is the most important thing, or those are the most important things.
But I mean, I know what you're saying, Tom, but Ben Habib and Rupert Lowe would say, why should we care what Reform UK voters want? We want them to vote for us. We are not here to support Reform UK. Therein lies your problem. Tom, I've got to move on, but good call. Thank you very much, Tom, in Cornwall. Peter Carball in a second and read a couple of messages. This is Mick in Kent talking about today's protest in Crowborough and indeed other anti-migrant protesters. He said, I'm a believer in protest, but these protests do nothing at all. We need to be much more firm. The phrase "we've had enough" comes to nothing. We need to do so much more. Well, I mean, all we can do in a democracy is peacefully protest. We don't want to go beyond that. So I disagree that protest is pointless. Demonstrations, public demonstrations are very important, a very important part of our democratic process. This is Sean. Good morning, Kevin. Morning, Sean. How things have changed. In the 70s, we had government adverts saying don't speak to or get into strangers' cars. Now the loony left idiots are giving Valentine cards to illegal immigrants. She should have told she should have the old Bill knocking on her door. Great show. Thank you, Sean. Yeah, this was Anne Cross, the Green councillor down in Crowborough, who revealed to the council the other day very proudly that she'd been painting Valentine's cards with her grandkids to give to the asylum seekers, the young foreign males who broke into the country illegally, staying at the Crowborough army camp, which people said was kind of wrong, missed the mood of the public, but also was kind of weird and disturbing. Maybe you could let Peter Cardwell know what you think about that during his show. 03444991000. And by an extraordinary coincidence, he's in the studio. Good morning, Peter.
It is very weird, Kevin, isn't it?
It's just
like, why would you do that? It's just it's an odd thing to do. There are lots of other very strange stories around today, particularly about Labour activists who paid for a smear campaign against two journalists from the Sunday Times.
This is McSweeney's Labour Together
outfit. Yes, it wasn't him personally, but there's a